afternoon, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So Thursday's a different day, not much sunshine, but yes, more rain. Some of that rain likely to be heavy as it spreads its way slowly northwards and eastwards, turning a bit drier in the west later on. Probably feeling a little more humid, but temperatures, again, mostly in the mid to high teens.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News."
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hit me here now. We came to celebrate. It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show and here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, a Sudanese man has been arrested after a vicious stabbing in Belfast that has shocked the nation and indeed the world. Political leaders across the country are calling for calm as the police brace for disorder. Our man Doogie Beattie will be live from the front line. And today, the Tories announced plans to water down the Equality Act to keep woke practices out of public sector work, such as the police force. But during 14 years in power, the Conservatives championed the Equality Act in light of the Henry Novak murder. Is this yet another Tory U-turn? And a shock new report published today claims Britain must consider the unthinkable step of reopening coal-fired power stations. Net Zero Watch reckons reliance on energy imports has left Britain at risk of blackouts and even sabotage. Dare to whisper it. Is it time to get digging again and bring back old King Coal? And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has got it a right old flap with reform. After they removed the Ukrainian flag from its council buildings, Zelensky blasted small mistakes that can break a big relationship. Should reform bow to Ukraine or should they stand by their guns? And that's all coming up in your next hour. A vicious stabbing in Belfast that's left the city on the brink. What do we know so far? A Sudanese asylum seeker we now know entered the United Kingdom via the Republic of Ireland, the soft underbelly of asylum via the European zone. What we don't know yet, his immigration status, what type of visa, what type of accommodation. Was he known to the authorities? Was he known to law and order? How on earth did this happen? As we look ahead to later in the show, a series of protests organised across the working class communities of Belfast that find itself 4 times more likely to be foisted asylum seekers upon it than the United Kingdom average. A city that's already been stretched to the brink, now facing a fresh disaster. Our man Doogie Beattie will be there for us live throughout the show. The protests, we believe, start at 7, but the build-up is all the way throughout today's show. The world once again asking, how can we ever take back control of our borders to ensure these kinds of emergencies do not happen anymore? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. 2 minutes past 3, the top stories from the GB newsroom. Northern Ireland police say they have no information to suggest last night's stabbing in Belfast was terror-related. A Sudanese man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. The victim, a man in his 40s, is in a serious condition in hospital with significant injuries to his face, neck and back. It's understood the suspect had leave to remain after arriving in Northern Ireland from Dublin, but that's yet to be confirmed by the Home Office. The Prime Minister's described the attack as horrific and sickening, saying he's no tolerance for such abhorrent scenes of violence. Graphic footage posted on social media has caused alarm in the local community, and police are appealing for a calm response.
I understand that last night's attempted murder will leave people feeling a range of emotions, from fear to anger. Our officers have a role to facilitate and accommodate peaceful protest. Everyone in Northern Ireland will, however, sadly remember the disorder which took place over the last 2 years. No one needs to see a repeat of this. This only causes damage to local communities, and unfortunately young people often get caught up in that disorder. So I appeal for calm and the safety of all of our communities in response to this.
Downing Street's also appealed for calm to allow the police to carry out its investigation, but DUP leader Gavin Robinson's called on the government to end what he calls uncontrolled immigration.
Uncontrolled immigration needs to end. Will he confirm that the government needs to reassure and protect our population, who for too long have had their concerns ignored?
The Conservatives have pledged to restore common sense by removing diversity rules for public sector bodies to promote equality. The party believes the public sector equality duty has fuelled a mindset under which police officers are advised to treat people differently based on ethnicity. Tory leader Campbell Badenoch's been speaking this morning, I should say, setting out plans to scrap rules requiring police officers, nurses and teachers to consider equality issues when they carry out their day-to-day work.
Authorities conditioned to see minority status as victimhood. They withhold information, they avoid difficult conversations, and they allow reputational concerns to dominate their decision-making.
A girl's been arrested after 3 people were injured during a suspected knife attack at a school in Manchester. The Co-op Academy was locked down this morning after police and paramedics were called. Greater Manchester Police said 3 people have been injured. However, all injuries are not thought to be serious at this time. An abusive man's been jailed for life for the murder of his partner and for causing a gas explosion at their home. 45-year-old Clifton George killed his 46-year-old partner Annabelle Rook by stabbing her 31 times during a row at their home in East London. It happened after she had said they should end their 10-year relationship. In the aftermath, George began a fire in the basement in order to cause a gas canister to explode. He was sentenced at Snaresbrook Crown Court to at least 23 years in prison. Lebanese media says the Israeli military has carried out fresh strikes on the southern city of Tyre. Thousands of people fled north after fresh evacuation orders were issued this morning. Authorities say at least 8 people have been killed. Tehran says Israeli attacks on Lebanon and the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah must end before any deal is agreed with the US. But President Trump claims a deal is still on the cards.
We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran. That hasn't stopped, and we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. The blockade continues to hold 100%.
Ben Stokes' position as England Test captain is hanging in the balance after an alleged altercation at a nightclub in the early hours of yesterday morning. The ECB, the England and Wales Cricket Board, is investigating the England captain and fast bowler Gus Atkinson for a breach of team protocol following the first Test win against New Zealand. Stokes and Atkinson are understood to have breached the team's new midnight curfew and then became involved in an altercation with a rugby player who's understood to have thrown a punch that hit the security guard that was supervising the players. ECB sources say the cricketers were not the aggressors. Finally, a top Somali referee will not officiate at the World Cup after being denied entry into the US. Omar Artan, who was set to become the first Somali to officiate in a World Cup match, was stopped by Border Patrol and Customs officials and deemed inadmissible due to vetting concerns. Somalia, one of several countries on a travel ban list introduced by the Trump administration. You're up to date. More coming up for you a little later.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the finance. The pound buys you $1.34 and €1.16. Gold costs £3,233 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 10,340 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Aaron. Welcome to the show. Britain, in fact the entire world and Ireland, is in shock today after a man in his 40s was attacked in Belfast in a vicious stabbing incident. The victim is currently in a critical condition following that incident, which left him with significant injuries to his face, to his neck, to his eyes and to his back. Speaking moments ago, the Northern Ireland Police confirmed an arrest has now been made.
Suspect, a man in his 30s, who we now understand to be Sudanese, was arrested at the scene on suspicion of attempted murder. He is in custody, and at this time we are not seeking anyone else in connection with the investigation. And what is believed to be a kitchen knife was recovered at the scene.
There are now fears that the attack could spark disorder and protest across Northern Ireland this afternoon and evening. Let's speak now to GB News DUP leader. Speaking to GB News, DUP leader Gavin Robertson called for calm.
I know of scores of businesses in my own constituency that are closing early for fear
of protests. We know in other parts of the United Kingdom that there have been scenes of on-street disorder and legitimate protests, sometimes delving into more nefarious scenes. I don't want to see that. I don't believe it should happen. I am calling for calm. I don't want to see violence on our streets, and I don't want to see individuals targeted because of the colour of their skin.
Let's cross live now to GB News Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie, who is in Belfast for us. Dougie Beattie just got out of that press conference there with Ryan Henderson, the Assistant Chief Constable. You asked the most pertinent question, I have to say, about how did he get into the country, the Sudanese national. Now, what do we know? And more to the point, Dougie, what do we not know about this case as we head towards an unsettled afternoon and perhaps evening in Belfast?
Well, what we do know is that the Home Office are still coming back to Assistant Chief Constable Ryan Henderson for exactly the details of this particular man. And I asked him a question at that press conference of how did he arrive in Northern Ireland.
In terms of the nationality, you'll be aware this morning our belief was that the male was Somalian. That was from the very quick first look at our investigation. We now know him to be, or believe him to be, Sudanese. In terms of the broader question around the immigration status, I don't want to appear that I'm trying to deflect on this. I think it's absolutely right that the Home Office will give you further clarity on it. But again, working with them this morning, my understanding is that the individual came into Northern Ireland from Dublin, moving up, and then was granted leave to remain. But as I say, colleagues from the Home Office will be confirming that in more detail in due course.
Well, there you are, Martin. I mean, he came from Dublin, and this has been a real problem that we in GB News have been reporting on in the Republic of Ireland over the last 3 years, is the open borders with the EU. And on June the 12th, the EU will take control of Ireland's borders rather than the Dáil. They will say how many people are coming in to the Republic of Ireland. And of course, many of those are illegal immigrants that rip up their passports, get on a train in Dublin and travel into the UK. Northern Ireland, under Boris Johnson's deal, the protocol, they arrive here and then they can travel on into Britain. But many of them have settled here, and we now know that he was one of them that came through from Dublin, settled in Northern Ireland and was granted a visa to stay here. Now, that is really worrying to the communities in Northern Ireland. They have been up in arms, especially those socially deprived areas where most of these people are being housed in what would have been cheap housing. It is changing the whole dynamics of the communities in there. We've seen that last year in Ballymena. Ryan Henderson also alluded to that. And tonight we are seeing fear back here in Northern Ireland because there is real anger about how he arrived and how he was let stay here. Now, I was on the ground last night at 11 o'clock and it was still a pretty traumatic scene, Martin. There's things that I cannot tell you right now, but it was a traumatic scene, and both communities, Protestant and Catholic, Loyalist and Republican, were gathering at 2 o'clock in the morning outside that estate and talking to one another about how they had been ignored. The politicians here have real questions to answer, and never mind getting a rubber boat. You can just get a plane to Dublin, rip up your passport and go into Britain anyway. This particular crime proves it.
Dougie Beattie, we've been talking for a long time about the fact across the United Kingdom, but in Belfast, especially in this incident, working class communities having no voice, no veto, no say, a housing crisis, a crisis of poverty, a political class completely out of touch with the man and the woman in the streets. Dougie Beattie, this is the perfect storm. It felt like a disaster in the making. As far as the community, the Kinnaird Avenue area, this part of Belfast, tell our viewers a bit about the kind of people you're going to get there. These are no-nonsense working class people, right, Dougie?
They are no nonsense, and they are your typical working class people. They don't have a lot, but they do stick together. That's the whole point here. And they have exactly the same social and economic problems on both sides of that divide. Now there's another side come into it, and it's not just Somalis, it's just not Sudanese, it's just not Pakistanis. It's everyone that has been pushed into these areas, and that includes in Dublin, in Galway, in Cork. They're just forced into these areas, into those deprived areas, and people that already have very little are now feeling pushed to the outside. And this last night was a brutal, a medieval assault. There's no doubt about that. It was sickening, and anybody that has watched that video will know exactly what I am talking about. And both sides of the community are saying, no, no more. That's it. Now, we have seen politicians visiting the scene today, calling for calm, calling for not to be destroying what benefits they do have in their own areas, but it is looking pretty much as if that is going to be ignored. Will it be tonight, tomorrow night, or maybe even the weekend? We don't know. Thankfully, the marching season isn't just quite underway at the moment. There is no draw into one area, but we have seen people calling for others to come into certain areas. So tonight we'll be keeping a watchful eye on this, and hopefully I'm not on GB News reporting on public disturbances, but it is obvious that the PSNI are also watching this because they are working with community leaders inside Northern Ireland. And I must say, Martin, out of everything last night, the people in the public that came to help that man with a hurling stick, a hurling bat, and defended him and managed to keep him alive. Also, I must say, the PSNI were there within minutes. That police car must have been on the Antrim Road, and they took charge of the situation beautifully. 2 young police officers had arrived there. So there is that to be said for them, and hopefully that will hold up any community relations at this minute in time inside those areas.
Okay, Digby, excellent report. We'll come back to you, of course, throughout the rest of the show as the situation changes there on the ground. Let's get back to the studio now. Quick bit of political reaction from GB News political editor Christopher Hope. Chris, it's another political nightmare. Let's be frank, it's a political nightmare. It's an immigration, an asylum, potentially based crime, a Sudanese. We don't know the type of visa. We don't know if he's known to the authorities. Those questions weren't asked. But it's a brutal, savage, sickening attack. It's gone around the world. The entire world is now looking at Britain and saying, how did it go so terribly wrong? Once again, the politicians have been completely blindsided.
And that's why you have this urgent question in the House of Commons today, called for by the head of the DUP in Westminster, Gavin Robinson. Again, it wasn't volunteered by the government. They may wanted to have heard more facts from the police service in Northern Ireland. In fact, during that statement, it was corrected that the attacker wasn't Somali, but he was Sudanese.
It's just a farce. It's a farce. They can't get the basic information right. I mean, it's so irresponsible to release the wrong information like that. That's the kind of thing that if somebody did online, the police would be telling them off.
Yes, I mean, it came from the PSNI, so they have to answer for themselves. The officer, Ryan Henderson, said there it was early in the investigation, and we clarified that as soon as we could. But if you take a step back from this, I do think that Gavin Robinson made clear the concern about this. People just don't feel safe. They feel the border's unprotected. The borders is a security issue, keeping us all safe so we know who's living among us. Gavin Robinson made that very clear. He's the DUP leader in Westminster.
Uncontrolled immigration needs to end. Will he confirm that the government needs to reassure and protect our population who for too long have had their concerns ignored?
For too long had their concerns ignored. The two questions right now: why did the Home Office give this individual leave to remain in Northern Ireland? Was it for 5 years, as Gavin Robinson told MPs? And how did they cross into Northern Ireland from Dublin? Were any checks made about them? Is that soft border on the island of Ireland now a risk, keeping us less safe than before?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, when we left the European Union, nobody knew what to do with the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. Nobody wanted a hard border. Nobody wanted to check anything. and suddenly it's become a free movement zone.
But on that point...
A soft underbelly of asylum, an accident waiting to happen.
On that exact point, it was made a soft border to avoid inflaming tensions between communities in Northern Ireland and Ireland. It may be those communities are now united in the need for a hard border to keep those Northern Ireland safe from those who may cross from the European Union, i.e. Ireland.
The trouble with the political class in Ireland is that they're completely out of touch with the people on the whole. Now, Gavin Robertson vocalised the working class communities there, but most of the politicians in Ireland are woke, same as in Britain. And the communities in Ireland, in Ballymena, in Belfast... So GB News has been covering these stories. The Irish media look the other way because they're all paid for by the state. This is the truth. Dougie Beattie gets his hand shaken all around the nation because we speak the truth and we give it the unvarnished truth. And the fact of the matter is, we don't know. The journalist didn't ask, I think, a dereliction of duty by the journalist in the press conference. Why did nobody ask, was this individual known to the criminal authorities? What type of accommodation was he staying in? Was it asylum accommodation? Was it a hotel? Was it an HMO? How long had he been here? What type of visa? What was his criminal record before? We don't know anything about this guy. Journalists should do their job, and they didn't in that press conference.
There were two questions about his immigration status, one by another broadcaster and then, of course, one by Dougie Beattie. They asked about his immigration status. I think the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, are waiting to hear what the Home Office says about that. But there are question marks about why, where he was living, who was paying for that, was it taxpayer-paid accommodation, all that. But we are waiting to hear more from the Home Office this afternoon. They may fill those blanks during this show, Martin.
I think we need to know. They promised us. After the Southport attacks, they were very quick to release the identities and all the information about the white fellow, the Liverpool attack. Let's have the full picture. We need the full picture, otherwise chaos fills a vacuum. Let's get to my next guest now. Delighted to be joined by the president of the Irish Freedom Party, Herman Kelly. Herman, welcome to the show. You and I again have been speaking for years about the feeling that this was a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, look, if Ireland is continued to be used as a dumping ground, it will turn into a powder keg. You can see, look, crimes like beheading people and rape jihad or rape gangs, gang rape was unheard of until very, very recently. But in the last number of years, we've had a sharp number of beheadings. This is something which is completely unknown in Ireland. Like yesterday in Dublin, a court case started for an Egyptian Muslim who is charged with attempted stabbing and cutting the throat of 3 children in Dublin a few years ago. In October 2024, in Belfast, an Irish traveller, Mary Ward, her throat was cut by her Somalian boyfriend. And that court case took place down in Dublin, where he fled to. And now, at the end of May, an Iranian woman, a mother of 2, her throat was cut in a migrant centre in Clifton in County Galway, and the Iranian man has just been charged with attempted murder. So this horrendous attempt last night was terrible.
I'm just keen to stay away from other cases in case we get into any legal trouble here, but I want to talk, if we could, about the broader sense of a conversation we've been having for years now, Herman. A political class completely out of touch with the working class, and a woke media paid for, afraid to ask the right questions.
Well, RTE, the national broadcaster, the state broadcaster in Ireland, they get 700 and almost 750, $750 million euro from the Irish state there recently to bail them out. So they say that he who pays the piper calls the tune. And it's certainly very much in Ireland. The media class in Ireland are very, very woke. It's a small country. They are completely woke. They love the EU. They love mass immigration. On the political parties, look, the chairman of Sinn Féin, Declan Kearney, he's been extremely quiet today. He said there a few years ago that the ambition of Sinn Féin was to have a multiracial and multicultural Ireland. That was their ambition. And all the political parties, be it Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, Labour, Social Democrats, whoever, they are all gung-ho in favour of mass immigration. And do you know what? In Belfast and the north of Ireland especially, we've had conflict over centuries between British, Irish Catholics and British Protestants. It is absolutely madness to introduce a large number of potential Islamic jihadists into the north of Ireland, because powder keg is not even the name of it. It will get really violent very, very quickly. As Dougie pointed out there, the people in the north of Ireland are not soft, and they do not like what is happening with mass immigration, about house prices out of control, housing availability not there, and now they see they see that their streets are becoming much less safe, and they've had it. Those scenes last night will drive people absolutely nuts. A lot of people in Ireland today, hopefully, they've had a wake-up call.
OK, Herman Kelly, thank you very much. Just want to just point out that the police, the PSNI said this case isn't believed to be related to terrorism, and, nobody wants to see aggro tonight. But Herman Kelly, appreciate your time. President of the Irish Freedom Party, thank you for your time. Now, still to come next, Kemi Badenoch says police who arrested Henry Novak were influenced by guidance saying hate crime should be treated as a priority. She's calling for a complete overhaul of the Equality Act. But once again, why didn't you do that in power? And also next, the Princess Royal has unveiled a memorial to more than 400 casualties from the First World War. Our reporter Charlie Peters has all of the latest. This is GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:28. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Princess Royal has unveiled a memorial to 400 casualties from the First World War today. The memorial is at Brookwood Military Cemetery in Surrey, and it's the work of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. What magnificent work they do. For more on the story, we can join our national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie.
Well, here at Brookwood Military Cemetery, a service has just completed to commemorate an extra 400 names who've been added to the special memorial. They've been put on these stones, these stelae, 31 of them that are around this cemetery. They are organised in a space designed to reflect the brightest stars that were shining. And that morning in November 1918, when armistice was signed. Now, these names, some of those who have previously not been commemorated on official memorials because they endured wounds on the Western Front or they were serving back home and they were not linked to that critical military service that they conducted. Now, there are 400 names here, but there's space for an additional 800 because the Commonwealth War Graves Commission is continuing its research to look into the other names, the other fallen who fought for us but have not yet been recognised. And to talk to me a bit more about some of that research is the historian Fiona Kingston. Fiona, you've been working on this project for a while now, looking into the people who've been recognised. Tell me about some of them.
So one of the cases that really sticks in the mind is for Company Sergeant Major John Fitzgerald. He was actually a career soldier, so lots of the names of the casualties on this memorial were men who responded to the call for the First World War. But he was actually someone who signed up with the Royal Munster Fusiliers at the age of 18 in 1911. And he did incredibly well. He rose through the ranks, and when the outbreak of war came, he was immediately shipped over to serve overseas as a more experienced soldier. So he served on the Mediterranean front in 1915, and then he also served in France between 1916 and 1918. And he did incredibly well, and he was actually acknowledged through medals, and he was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal for gallantry in 1917. So he was someone who really sacrificed and showed incredible bravery on the front lines. But whilst he was in France, he contracted tuberculosis, and unfortunately he had to be discharged from the army through ill health, and he went back to his hometown of Tralee in Ireland. And it was sadly here that he was admitted to a sanatorium for treatment, and he died only 4 months later. So this is someone who had served for an incredibly long period of time. He showed incredible bravery on the battlefields, but actually that illness that he contracted was due to the conditions that he saw in the trenches. And we have now been able to commemorate him on this memorial.
Fiona, thank you so much for that. And John Fitzgerald will be among the 400 names that are recognised here in a service that was led by Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, who gave her message of remembrance earlier this afternoon. And here at Brookwood Military Cemetery, we are being reminded that while remembrance is particularly in focus in November, for many people, including at the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, this is a year-round, constant service where more research, more names are being added to those heroes that we honour every year.
Magnificent. I just want to pay special respect to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, the work they do, the Normandy cemeteries, finding bodies and helping them to get a place to rest, and the commemoration there today. Just magnificent work. Thank you to all people there and all you do to help remember the fallen. Your work is very, very much appreciated. Now, still to come. Kemi Badenoch said police who arrested Henry Novak were influenced by guidance saying hate crimes should be treated as a priority. Today, she's calling for a complete overhaul of the Equality Act. It wasn't the Conservatives who put these laws in the first place, and didn't they champion them for 14 years in power? First, it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Northern Ireland police have called for calm amid fears that planned protests in response to the Belfast knife attack could lead to disorder. A Sudanese man has been arrested after a 40-year-old man was left in a critical condition. Police say there's nothing to suggest last night's stabbing, though, was terror-related. The Conservatives have pledged to restore common sense, saying diversity rules for public sector bodies should be scrapped. Kemi Badenoch says the public sector equality duty has been used to promote dangerous and divisive agendas, and the current law represents an overcorrection. A 14-year-old girl is in custody after 3 people were injured during a suspected knife attack at a school in Manchester. The Co-op Academy has been closed down for the rest of the day. An abusive man's been jailed for life for the murder of his partner Annabelle Rook and causing a gas explosion at their home. 45-year-old Clifton George killed his partner by stabbing her 31 times during a row at their home in East London. And you're up to date with the headlines. More coming up at 4.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen plenty of heavy showers today and there's more to come tonight and again tomorrow, and staying on the fairly fresh side. Pretty hefty downpours out there for this evening's rush hour. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. The thundery showers focused across eastern parts of England and Scotland. They will tend to fade, generally turning drier in the east. Always further west will keep some showers going, getting blown in on a fairly brisk breeze. That breeze, though, easing a touch through the night, which will allow temperatures to dip down to single figures in some spots. On to Wednesday, another case of sunshine and showers, with eastern areas generally starting off with the sunshine, and further west, that's where most of the showers will be. That's certainly the case first thing in the morning, so generally a fine start on the east coast of Scotland. Further west, some sunshine between the showers, which will be zipping in here and for Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones over Northern England and parts of West Wales. Largely dry to start with over East Anglia and the southeast. Some morning sunshine here. Wales and southwest England seeing the showers again blown in on a fairly brisk wind. Subtle changes as we go through the day. Again, the clouds will build up. We'll see some thundery downpours come the afternoon, mostly focused over the Midlands, northeast England, and then come the afternoon perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So Thursday's a different day, not much sunshine, but yes, more rain. Some of that rain likely to be heavy as it spreads its way slowly northwards and eastwards, turning a bit drier in the west later on. Probably feeling a little more humid, but temperatures, again, mostly in the mid to high teens.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Continuous planned maintenance restricts traffic both ways on the A90 at Brecon. The A55 is limited to 30 miles per hour both ways over Britannia Bridge. On the M1 northbound, an accident affects traffic between junctions 26 and 27, closing one of 4 lanes, with normal traffic expected later. Incidents on the M11 northbound entry slip at junction 6 from M25 anti-clockwise, and the M48 westbound between junctions 1 and 2 have cleared. And on the trains, there are delays on Chiltern Railway services at Banbury. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 3:37 your time. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives, says police who arrested Henry Novak were influenced by guidance, saying that hate crime should be treated as a priority. The Conservative leader gave a major speech this morning where she called for identity politics to be removed from public life. And she says that rules requiring police officers, nurses and teachers to consider equality issues when they carry out their day-to-day work, they should be scrapped. I'm delighted to be joined by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who was at that speech earlier. Catherine, it's a great suggestion, and no doubt one great many of our viewers and listeners would agree with. But the Conservatives were in power for 14 years. They could have done something about it then.
Well, yes, that's true. The Equality Act came in 2010. They didn't do anything about it till now. But Kemi Badenoch, and of course they're not in position to change it because they're not in government, but Kemi Badenoch will say, in fact did say, that she has spent her whole political career fighting against identity politics. She was very outspoken as equalities minister, and she is basically saying there's been a huge overcorrection, and she says that now it's led to institutional incompetence, and also that this is costing lives, whether that be in the case of Alex Novak or Manchester Arena or the grooming gangs or the Nottingham killer. I asked her about that specifically. Let's have a look at what she said in response. Nottingham inquiry concluded yesterday with the message that they had been failed at all levels, but we do know that one of the psychiatrists had resisted sectioning Caine because she was worried about the overrepresentation of black men with schizophrenia in institutions. What's your message to people who feel queasy about what you are suggesting, given some of those facts?
On the Nottingham murders, what I would say is that this is exactly the sort of situation that we're trying to prevent. If you have mental health issues and you need to be sectioned and you need to be detained, you should be sectioned, you should be detained. No one should be counting how many other black people have been sectioned or detained and say, well, this is too much, so we'll let you go. That is a complete absence of common sense. And we need to bring the common sense back. This is what I'm pushing for. We know that there will be some cases where people are discriminated against. There are powers in the Equality Act to deal with that, whether you're white or black. Let's use those, but not this duty that basically tells people to ignore things that need to be dealt with.
So she's saying, let's get back to common sense, and also saying that some of this has led to lives being lost. Just to give you another example, in terms of stop and search, we know that young black men are stopped and searched, I think, 4 times as much as young white men. And she said it doesn't matter if our black boys are searched, because it means if more black boys are searched, because it means that more black boys will be saved. And she said that mothers of young black men will say, please crack down with the stop and search, because disproportionately it is young black males who lose their lives in knife crime.
Kemi Bader is absolutely correct to say that. And I just wish we could get away from this conversation about everything is racist, because the facts show that if you're a young black man in places like Birmingham, Manchester, then you are more likely to be stopped and searched, but you're also much more likely to be stabbed. You're much more likely to do the stabbing. Glasgow had a terrible, terrible problem with knife crime. They clamped down on it with violence reduction unit, targeting white working class kids, because they happened to be the demographic there that were doing all the killing. So Ken Bennett is exactly right. We should be colourblind on policing. But I do want to just mention again that this has been going on for decades, all this kind of politically correct policing and the health service. Go back to the rape gangs. Afraid of being called racist to call that out. The Caine disaster, I think, has highlighted something that's been going on for decades about the fear of being called racist in the health service. Non-crime hate incidents were brought in on the Conservative watch. The nonsense of policing our tweets, not our streets. So I think the entire political class has got this wrong for a long, long time.
Yes, because the rape gangs go back decades, we know, and people in positions of authority, police, NHS, social workers, turned a blind eye. And this is something that has gone on. She mentioned to the absurdity of what you mentioned, the non-crime hate incidents, that if somebody feels that a comment or something is racist, then therefore it is. And she is having absolutely none of it. The problem they've got, of course, is they are not in power. There is a Labour government who have said that they will look at issues raised from what happened with the police and Henry Novak. But Reform, of course, have said that they would scrap the Equality Act altogether. That is something that the Tories don't want to do, but they do want to get rid of this public sector equality duty.
I wonder if it's kind of tweaking at the edges. I mean, most people won't even understand what that means, the public sector equality duty. So it applies to public sector workers when they carry out their day-to-day work. But the Equality Act potentially could still find its tendrils into their work some way. Perhaps people just want clarity, just scrap the whole lot of it altogether and start again. We could rewrite a new legislation around all of this. We don't need to be tied to the existing, do we?
Well, the Tories feel that the Equality Act is still important in offering people protections, but that the day-to-day way that public servants go about their business, that people should be completely colourblind and basically treat everybody exactly the same and not worry about upsetting this group or how disadvantaged another group might be. She did point out, too, that, you know, white working class boys are at the absolute bottom of the heap in education, and because they don't fit into a sort of disadvantaged label, you know, for too long they've been pretty much abandoned.
And I would say again, Kemi Badenoch is absolutely correct on that. It's something I've been talking about for years, 25 years plus. White working class lads have been at the bottom of the stack. No one's really stuck up for them. In fact, when I used to go into Parliament years ago to try and get political action on this, nobody from the political left cared. It came as a real shock to me. It was the Conservatives who seemed to care, and then latterly the Brexit Party, Reform UK. It's a strange situation, is it not, that the political party of the working classes, the Labour Party, don't seem to care about those communities anymore. And it creates a void for people like Kemi Badenoch to step into.
Well, that's exactly why many people would think so many voters turned their backs on the Labour Party in the local elections and in Scotland and Wales, because working class communities feel that the Labour Party has abandoned them. It's something that I asked the Prime Minister. He very notably didn't answer. But I used to be a school governor, and you look at disadvantaged groups and you look at English as an additional language, large numbers, especially in London, of pupils with an additional language. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they are disadvantaged, because very often in some of these ethnic groups you find that the parents are incredibly involved in their kids' education and wanting them to do well and get ahead. But somehow white working class boys, yeah, as you say, it's something that's been going on for a very long time, not being dealt with.
A demographic that's never really had a political champion, and I think it's laudable work to step in and protect them and be colourblind. Catherine Forster, superb. Thank you very much indeed. Now, moving on. Coming up next, Ben Stokes' England captaincy as the captain of the England cricket team is hanging by a thread following another incident at a nightclub. Boozy, late nights out, the kind of thing we thought were consigned to history, are back with a vengeance. I'll be joined by the Telegraph's cricket correspondent Nick Holt to discuss the fate of one of England's greatest ever players. Is it stumps up for Ben Stokes? But first, if you search some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Lots of sunshine on offer across Italy this Wednesday. Still a bit more cloud and the chance of one or two showers over eastern Spain. A cool breeze blowing in Madeira. Sunny spells, though, for the Canaries. Lots of sunshine for the Algarve. There's that cloudier weather over eastern Spain. Small chance of a shower or two here. And inland over Greece, one or two showers are possible on Wednesday. But plenty of sunshine over the Greek islands. More sunshine to come through Italy. And we'll see temperatures on the rise in Barcelona this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Princess Anne and the way that she has brought up her family is really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, you've got daughter and son who've not taken on royal titles, who've just got on with their lives.
I think now, in retrospect, we can say it was an inspired decision of the Royal Princess Anne not to have her husband receive a Grand Peerage title, which meant, of course, that her children would just be plain Mr. and Mrs. Zara is Mrs. Tyndall, he is Mr. Phillips, and that's allowed them actually to have a much more normal life, not being in the necessary glare that attaches when you have the HRH prefix to your name and become a duke or a duchess or whatever. And yes, they have had great lives in the private sector.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dorothea, how does it feel being here today, joining other veterans?
It's marvellous, because for years after the war ended, nobody knew that women had even done anything during the war. And also, they suddenly discovered that, good heavens, women have got brains. They can think for themselves and for the country. And it was naturally assumed that everybody would willingly do their bit for England. And they would have. We had one purpose in life, which was to free the world from Nazism.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
To a lot of people, there's just a series of names, and they are to us. But suddenly we come to a name, and we knew that guy. This one down there, Daddy Circus. I served with him. I know what a lovely man he was. Terrible waste that he dies. There's another guy, Lieutenant Fraden, who was my signals officer in the 2nd 4th Essex. Was transferred to the 2nd Essex when we were transferred to the Dorsets. He got killed by a sniper. What a wicked waste. Wicked waste. And then the powers that be are warming up for another one. Doesn't make sense. I bet God above is regretting giving man his free will. That's all I can think.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 to 4, you with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, there's a huge story involving one of England's greatest ever cricketers today. Ben Stokes could lose the Test captaincy after an incident, a late-night incident at a nightclub in the early hours of yesterday morning. Stokes and his teammates Gus Atkinson broke a midnight curfew as they celebrated Sunday's first Test win over New Zealand. So, is it just lads having a night out, or is this the end for Stokes' captaincy? Well, I'm joined now by the Telegraph's chief cricket correspondent, Nick Holt. Nick, welcome to the show. This has really divided public opinion. Some people saying, you know, hey, they won a Test, they won it handsomely, they won it early, they've got a 10-day break. It's just the boys letting off some steam, but they have broken a curfew. Where do you stand on it?
Well, it's not just they broke the curfew, it's the captain that's broken the curfew, and the captain was the person who was responsible for writing the rules in the first place. So it is a pretty serious breach of team discipline. Of course, this comes on the back of a 4-1 defeat in Australia and a tour to Australia that was bedeviled with stories about drinking culture.
But when you look back to the glory days of English cricket, and I'm old enough to remember, like, you know, Botham, Beefy, sort of being drunk half the time he was playing. David Gower flying aeroplanes over stadiums, over grounds. I mean, have we gone too far?
Well, I think the difference back in those days was that the opposition were drinking just as much as the England players were, but I think a lot of the teams now are very professional. And the question has been raised about this England side, whether they have those same professional standards required to compete against the best teams. Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum have had 4 series against India and Australia, the 2 of the best teams in the world, and they haven't won any of them.
But the incident itself involved some Saracens rugby players, right? And they were massive lads. And one of them came over and it kicked off. You could argue that Ben Stokes was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I guess that's your point. He shouldn't have been there after midnight, full stop.
Well, absolutely. I mean, from what we're told, the England players, the cricketers weren't the aggressors, but the England team security officer ended up having stitches in his face because the England captain wanted to go out and have another drink and break the team curfew. So that's not a great example to set, especially if he's trying to lay down the law to the rest of the group at other times.
But if you want your best players on the ground, if you want to put your best names out there, is it really the right thing to do to drop Stokes as captain, or would you go further? Would you kick him out of the team?
I think there has to be a consequence for this. Whether he loses his job as captain, whether he decides he's had enough and stands down, that's for him to decide. The ball's very much in his court, from what I understand on that. I can't see how he can play the next Test match, which starts next week. This will accelerate the promotion of Harry Brook as captain, which is quite ironic, given that he was the one that was caught in Wellington being punched by a bouncer just 8 months ago.
It's a funny old game. It's changed a lot, and maybe that's the point. Maybe I'm one of those dinosaurs, Nick. I still have a wry smile for the days of Gower and Botham, and you know when the boys went a bit awry. But you're saying the game now should be much more disciplined.
Well, I think there's a lot more money at stake. There's a lot. The guys are paid very well. And look, they've just come off the back of a defeat in Australia. And we were told this was going to be a reset. This was a reboot, that they were going to reconnect with supporters. I mean, you mainly do that by winning. And they won well at Lords. They beat New Zealand and had and won a tight game by a big margin. But the rules and regulations were set in place by the captain, and he's broken them at the first attempt.
OK, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. That's Telegraph's chief cricket correspondent, Nick Holt. Thank you very much indeed. And after the break, we'll be back in Belfast, continuing our live coverage of the horrific events. Again, the very latest from our reaction from our reporter, Doogie Beattie, a Sudanese man being held on an attempted murder charge, a vicious attack in Belfast. The city is on the brink, expecting to have protests later this evening. We'll be there with our man Doogie Beattie. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen plenty of heavy showers today, and there's more to come tonight and again tomorrow, and staying on the fairly fresh side. Pretty hefty downpours out there for this evening's rush hour. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. The thundery showers focused across eastern parts of England and Scotland. They will tend to fade, generally turning drier in the east. Always further west will keep some showers going, getting blown in on a fairly brisk breeze. That breeze, though, easing a touch through the night, which will allow temperatures to dip down to single figures in some spots. On to Wednesday, another case of sunshine and showers, with eastern areas generally starting off with the sunshine, and further west, that's where most of the showers will be. That's certainly the case first thing in the morning, so generally a fine start on the east coast of Scotland. Further west, some sunshine between the showers, which will be zipping in here and for Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones over Northern England and parts of West Wales. Largely dry to start with over East Anglia and the southeast. Some morning sunshine here. Wales and southwest England seeing the showers again blown in on a fairly brisk wind. Subtle changes as we go through the day. Again, the clouds will build up. We'll see some thundery downpours come the afternoon, mostly focused over the Midlands, northeast England, and then come the afternoon, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So Thursday's a different day, not much sunshine, but yes, more rain. Some of that rain likely to be heavy as it spreads its way slowly northwards and eastwards, turning a bit drier in the west later on. Probably feeling a little more humid, but temperatures, again, mostly in the mid to high teens.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A90 at Brecon remains restricted due to planned maintenance. In Wales, northbound congestion is reported on the A4232 from the A48 interchange to the M4 at junction 33 near Capel Lanilturn. On the M1 northbound in Nottinghamshire, an incident has closed one lane between junctions 26 and 27, with traffic expected to return to normal by 6:30 this evening. In Surrey, the A23 northbound is congested between the M23 and the junction with the A237, causing delays of up to 30 minutes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you through until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story this afternoon, a Sudanese man has been arrested after a vicious stabbing in Belfast that has shocked the nation. Political leaders across the country are calling for calm as the police brace themselves for disorder across Belfast later on this afternoon. Our man Doogie Beattie will be live from the front line. And today, the Tories announced plans to water down the Equality Act to keep woke practices out of public sector work, such as in the police forces. But during 14 years in power, the Conservatives championed the Equality Act in light of the Henry Novak murder. Is this yet another Tory U-turn? And a shock new report claims Britain must consider the unthinkable step of reopening coal-fired power stations. Net Zero Watch reckons that reliance on energy imports has left Britain at risk of blackouts and even sabotage. Is it time to get digging again? Is it time to bring back old King Coal? And the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has gone into a right old flap with Reform UK after they removed the Ukrainian flag from its council buildings. Zelensky blasted a small mistake that can break a big relationship. So here's the question. Should Reform bow down to Ukraine, or should Reform UK stand by their guns? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Belfast very much on the brink this afternoon. We believe protests are building up across the city. What do we know? So far, a Sudanese man is being held on suspicion of attempted murder after a brutal knife attack that left a victim in a serious condition with injuries to his face, to his eyes, to his wrists and to his back. We know that the Sudanese man came into Northern Ireland via the Republic of Ireland, the soft underbelly of asylum, through the freedom of movement zone of the European Union and into the United Kingdom. We know he's on a 5-year visa. What we don't know is, was this individual known to the authorities? Does he have a criminal record? Is he living in asylum accommodation? Is he on benefits? You get the picture. A huge amount of questions remain to be asked. We understand there will be a press conference from Stormont, the home of Irish politics in Northern Ireland, in a short moment's time. Our man Doogie Beattie is on the ground for us throughout all of this incredible scandal, which left the people of Ireland of the Republic of Ireland, of Northern Ireland, of the United Kingdom, of the whole world wondering, is this another consequence of open borders madness? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good afternoon. 3 minutes past 4. Our top stories. Northern Ireland police say they have no information to suggest last night's stabbing in Belfast was terror-related. A Sudanese man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. The victim, a man in his 40s, is in serious condition in hospital with significant injuries to his face, neck and back. It's understood the suspect had leave to remain after arriving in Northern Ireland from Dublin, but that's yet to be confirmed by the Home Office. The Prime Minister has described the attack as horrific and sickening, saying he has no tolerance for such abhorrent scenes of violence. Graphic footage posted on social media has caused alarm in the local community. Police are appealing for a calm response.
I understand that last night's attempted murder will leave people feeling a range of emotions, from fear to anger. Our officers have a role to facilitate and accommodate peaceful protest. Everyone in Northern Ireland will, however, sadly remember the disorder which took place over the last 2 years. No one needs to see a repeat of this. This only causes damage to local communities, and unfortunately young people often get caught up in that disorder. So I appeal for calm and the safety of all of our communities in response to this.
Downing Street has mirrored those appeals for calm, saying the police need to be allowed to carry out their investigation. DUP leader Gavin Robinson has called on the government to secure the UK's borders.
Uncontrolled immigration needs to end. Will he confirm that the government needs to reassure and protect our population, who for too long have had their concerns ignored?
The Conservatives are calling for the rules that require public bodies to promote equality when making decisions to be scrapped. Kemi Badenoch has pledged to restore common sense, saying the public sector equality duty has resulted in some groups being preferred over others. She believes it's been used to promote dangerous and divisive agendas, and says the current legislation represents an overcorrection.
Authorities condition to see minority status as victimhood. They withhold information, they avoid difficult conversations, and they allow reputational concerns to dominate their decision-making.
Groups working for hostile foreign powers, including Iran's Revolutionary Guard, could be banned as early as next month. Sir Keir Starmer pledged to fast-track the legislation following a series of anti-Semitic attacks, including the firebombing of Jewish ambulances and the stabbing of 2 men in Golders Green. The new National Security State Threats Bill could see people working for hostile powers and their proxies jailed for up to 14 years. Meanwhile, a 5th person has been charged in connection with the arson attack on Jewish community ambulances in North London. Subhan Ahmed, who's 18 from East London, has been charged with assisting an offender. Lebanese media says 8 people have been killed after the Israeli military carried out fresh strikes on the southern city of Tyre. Thousands of people fled to the north after fresh evacuation orders were issued this morning. Tehran says Israeli attacks on Lebanon and the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah must end before any deal is agreed with the US. But President Trump claims a deal is still on the cards.
We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran, and that hasn't stopped. And we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. The blockade continues to hold 100%.
A girl's been arrested after 3 people were injured during a suspected knife attack at a school in Manchester. The Co-op Academy was locked down after police and paramedics were called. It's been closed for the rest of the day. 3 people were injured, although those injuries are not believed to be serious. An abusive man's been jailed for life for the murder of his partner and for causing a gas explosion at their home. 45-year-old Clifton George killed his 46-year-old partner, Annabelle Rook, by stabbing her 31 times during a row at their home in East London. He started a fire in the aftermath in order to cause a gas canister to explode. He was sentenced at Snaresbrook Crown Court to at least 23 years in prison. And Ben Stokes' position as England's cricket test captain is hanging in the balance after an alleged altercation at a nightclub in the early hours of yesterday morning. The ECB's investigating Stokes and bowler Gus Atkinson for a breach of team protocol. It followed the first test win against New Zealand. Stokes and Atkinson breached the team's new midnight curfew, and it's understood they became involved in an altercation with a rugby player who's thought to have thrown the first punch that hit a security guard supervising the players. ECB sources say the cricketers were not the aggressors. You're up to date with the headlines. More coming up at 4:30.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets for you. The pound buys you $1.34 and €1.16. Gold costs £3,206 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 10,302 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Welcome back. Let's cross live now to Stormont, where Northern Irish leaders are holding a press conference about the Belfast knife attack.
The emergency services and all of those who responded at the scene, and in particular I pay tribute to the members of the local community and to the PSNI officers who showed courage by putting themselves in harm's way to help bring this.
Yeah, that's the First Minister of Northern Ireland there. That's Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin. That's a press conference at Stormont. We're going to try and re-establish the link to that press conference because there's a lot of information we do know, and frankly, there's a lot of information that we don't know about the nature of this attack, the identity of the attacker, the immigration status of the attacker, the nature of the attack itself. I'm joined in the studio by Chris Hope, our political editor. Let's just bring you up to speed of what we do know if you're joining us now. There was a press conference just before 3 p.m, and that was with Ryan Henderson, who's the Assistant Chief Constable of PSNI. Let's get back now to Stormont.
Are frightened. And above all, people deserve to feel safe in their own communities and to have confidence in the systems that are meant to protect them. We understand that the suspect was in Northern Ireland visa and entered Northern Ireland via Dublin. This was someone who came here to live within our community and yet has committed an act of appalling, barbaric violence. People legitimately need to be reassured that their concerns are not only being listened to, but taken seriously. The criminal justice process must be allowed to take place. We need a swift conviction, and on conviction, this dangerous man must be deported immediately. The safety of our communities must come first. My message is clear. I hear they must be taken seriously. And in the meantime, I really genuinely appeal for calm across all of our communities.
I think all of us were horrified at what we witnessed unfolding last night in North Belfast. And I understand that many people in that community this morning will be traumatised, they will be fearful, and they will be angry at what unfolded on their doorstep, and they have every right to be so. My thoughts are with the individual who suffered grievous injuries and is now in hospital, and I hope that he will recover from those injuries. However, those who ran at their own peril to save him showed courage that I think needs to be paid tribute to also, as do I want to pay tribute to the emergency services and first responders who arrived on the scene and sought to save a man's life. And all with him and with his family today. There will of course be those who wish to take the pain, the suffering, the fear, the genuine concern in those communities and weaponise it for other purposes. I would appeal to communities not to allow themselves to be used and abused in that way, to remain calm, to allow the police to do their work in terms of their investigation, and to allow the justice system to hold the individual responsible to account for what was a shockingly barbaric attack on our streets. We do not want police resources and other people to be caught up in what could become a very heated situation. We want the police to be able to focus on this investigation justice that the victim and his family and the wider community deserves. We also know that there are many in our community today who are fearful, who are afraid because they fear that others will associate them with the person who was involved in this attack. We need that their safety, along with everyone else's safety, is our primary concern. Everyone in Northern Ireland should be safe on our streets. Everyone in Northern Ireland should know that they have a safe place here, and it is my job and the job of all of us in government to make sure that that is the case. And like others before me, I want to appeal for calm. I do not want to see people unnecessarily criminalised, unnecessarily in trouble with the law. Allow the justice system to take its course and allow people to be held accountable for their actions under that regime.
On behalf of the Policing Board, I condemn this horrific attack. Naturally, our thoughts are with the victim, his loved ones, and all those who witnessed this terrifying incident. And we thank the police officers and ambulance service as first responders, along with those individuals who intervened and ultimately saved the victim's life. I would ask people to desist from speculation about the incident, especially online. Such speculation only feeds fear. Allow the police to investigate and to provide clarity. We understand the community concern, but this is a time for calm heads, to allow the police to do their job. It is not a time for protest. Bringing disruption onto the streets and into communities will serve no purpose. It will only serve to divert policing resources from people in real need of police help. As a community, we must stand united against hatred and against violence. And we thank the political leaders who are working, political and civic leaders who are working with the police at this time to calm tensions. I would ask anyone with information with regard to the incident to contact police directly or through the Crime Stoppers helpline.
Thank you for coming, everybody. In the earlier PSNI press conference, Assistant Chief Constable Ryan Henderson described how this morning many people would have woken to the very distressing and harrowing images of the attack in Belfast at around about 10:30 p.m. last night. My thoughts, and I know the thoughts of everybody here, are with the victim of that attack and his family. And that should be the case for everybody in Northern Ireland. The man, who's aged in his 40s, was seriously injured in that attack. I want to especially acknowledge the courage of those members of the public who ran towards danger to intervene and help the injured man, and the PSNI officers who arrived so quickly to arrest the offender. I have absolutely no doubt that those members of the public saved that man's life. What we know so far: this attack happened in Kinnaird Avenue area of Belfast last night at around about 10:30 p.m. Officers arrived within a few short minutes at the scene to detain and arrest the suspect and administer first aid to the victim. Colleagues from the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service arrived a short time after. The victim was taken to hospital with significant injuries. The suspect, a man in his 30s, we now understand to be Sudanese, was arrested at the scene on suspicion of attempted murder. He remains in custody, and at this time we are not seeking anyone else in connection with what happened last night. A kitchen knife was recovered at the scene. It's my understanding that the suspect was granted leave to remain in the United Kingdom on the 28th of September of 2023. Again, this is to be confirmed, but I'm informed that he made his way from Sudan to Paris at dates unknown, and from Paris he flew to Dublin at a date yet to be determined. From my current understanding, he then travelled from Dublin to Belfast by bus on the 10th of February of 2023 and claimed that date. There is no trace of this suspect on any of our national security databases, and he was not known to the Police Service of Northern Ireland. I've been in direct contact with the head of the counter-terrorism policing in the UK at this to suggest that this was terrorist related. I do appreciate the nature of the attack has led to speculation it is terrorist related. However, there is nothing to suggest that that is the case. It's still the investigation, and if that changes, we will update you. Now, this vile attack has sent shockwaves throughout all of our communities. I want to reassure all of them that your safety is our absolute priority, and we're engaged with those communities, with residents and with our political parties and leaders to provide reassurance and support. There will be an increased police presence across Northern Ireland this evening and in the coming days to provide help, support and reassurance for all our communities and to keep everybody safe. There is considerable posting on social media. I appeal for everyone to be mindful of what they view and share online. Sharing footage risks causing further trauma to the injured man's family and loved ones and may impact on this investigation. We are aware, of course, of protest activity being discussed across Northern Ireland this evening, and we continue to monitor this very carefully. And I understand that last night's attempted murder will leave people feeling enraged with emotions from fear to anger. But please, please, let the PSNI, let the police do their job, unfettered and undistracted by wider concerns there may be about disorder. August 2024, and saw disturbances in Northern Ireland that benefited no one. Those disturbances resulted in damage to our own communities and the criminalising of our own young people. Do not let people who know nothing about Northern Ireland impact on the behaviours of our people in Northern Ireland from afar through social media. Remember the actions, forgive me, of those members of the public. They truly define our society in Northern Ireland. They saved a man's life last night. Do not let the actions of that man impact on any further harm to anybody else in Northern Ireland. Let us do our job. Act responsibly. Do not let anybody be subject to any further criminal investigation. Last night, take its course. I think we're now happy to take questions.
Is it the case that this suspect was someone who came into the country as an illegal immigrant and was given legal status? And the fact that that might be the case, what would be the community reaction, do you think, to that, and the fact that they come up through? Can I also ask the Minister what they believe will be the political fallout when the current government is situation?
So if I go first with regards to legal status. So I think lawyers will debate the legal status of this individual for weeks, months and maybe even years to come. There was nothing to prevent that individual from coming into this country, and he sought leave to remain through his asylum application. His status when he crossed that border is still undetermined by us, but it's something that we'll be looking at and will come out in the fullness of time.
Yeah, I think I agree with the Chief Constable. I think that people shouldn't jump to assumptions. We don't have the full picture here, so I think that's important to say. I think for today, the main focus standing here together today is to appeal for calm. It's also to ensure that we reflect where we know people are, because I think people are feeling fearful, people are feeling angry, people are feeling a bag of emotions about what they have witnessed over the course of yesterday evening and into this morning. But my message today is one of calm, and don't allow those people that don't care to incite hatred, to incite fear. Don't allow those people who are faceless to orchestrate campaigns, and on is something that I would want to underline from today's press conference.
First of all, I welcome that the PSNI have communicated a significant amount of detail in relation to the man that has been arrested for this horrendous criminal offence. That is something I think that the PSNI and other police forces. I called this morning whenever I was speaking to the Chief Constable and again in the chamber for the maximum amount of information to be given to people, because I think people have the right to know. In terms of the information that we have heard thus far, and I accept that there will be more details to come out, but what is clear is that this was a man that went through a number of other safe countries before he came to Northern Ireland. I was on a call just last Wednesday, a UK-wide call on immigration, and I raised both of those key issues. First of all, the issue in relation to the Irish border. We have been aware for some considerable time that there are people coming across the Irish border to claim asylum in Northern Ireland. Those people, very often, we do not know their background, we do not know the routes that they come through, and we do not know if they have any convictions or any history in another jurisdiction. So I raised that issue to the UK Immigration Minister as a concern, and asked once again for action on that, because this is not the first time that I have raised that as well. I also raised the issue of those who come to the United Kingdom and subsequently commit offences, that the UK must be able to deport those individuals much more swiftly than they have done thus far. Last Wednesday. But I absolutely agree with others here today that what we need today is calm across Northern Ireland, across our communities. Any kind of disorder only serves to wreck our own communities. It doesn't. I think importantly, people must know that their legitimate concerns and issues are being listened to. Politics must work for the communities we serve. Communities must feel that the protections that are in place are working to keep them safe. And I think that's why people are worried, that's why people are concerned tonight. And the UK Government, and indeed here at the Assembly, we must listen and we must take action.
Well, I think it's very important that we do, as the Chief Constable suggested, and allow this police investigation to take its course. It's very early in that investigation, and there will be further discussions as to how someone came to be here and so on. But irrespective of how they arrived here and what their status was when they were here, what happened last night was horrific and it was unacceptable. And the important thing now is that the police can ensure that all of their focus is on ensuring that this is felt the full force of the law, that it's brought to court and that it's properly litigated in that way. It's important that they are not distracted by other issues in the community, and that's why we're here collectively appealing for calm. We know that people are horrified. We were all horrified. It is a frightening thing to see that unfold online in the way that we did. And of course, if you live in that community or in another community, you will be fearful that the same could happen there. And it is right that we should respond to that. But it is important that in our response, it is about protecting everyone in our community from further harm. And that requires us to do what we have had to do on so many difficult occasions before, to come together, to stay united and to work together as a community to create the kind of safe space that everyone can flourish in, and not to leave people feeling vulnerable. I don't want to see a repeat of this on our streets. I have raised the issue with the Home Office in the past around trafficking, both human trafficking and other trafficking. Raised it also with Jim O'Callaghan, though it is more for the Home Office to do so. But I recognise that there are challenges when you can travel freely, and what we don't want on either side of the border is to see the common travel area being exploited for ill purposes. We have been clear about that. The important thing, however, now is not to demonise any particular community, any particular group of people, or to put people at risk, because there are many people that I've spoken to already today who are fearful about whether or not they will be safe when they return home, about whether they are safe on public transport and to go about their lives and to go to work and do all the things they normally do. That can't be good either for people who have lived here all their lives or for people who have come to make this their home. So we need to create safe communities where everyone is safe, and that's why we're appealing for calm.
Folks, just to make all aware, the bell is going to go at 4:40, so we'll just keep going as long as we can. Jane?
Last summer, we previously talked about your fears and concerns about potential summer discontent again. Why did it happen last night? How worried are you about that prospect and to our ministers? There are members of the minority and ethnic community here who are all listening to this. What can you say to reassure them that how fearful will be about potential retaliation?
So if I begin, obviously I alluded to what we've seen in 2024 and 2025. People who contribute positively to Ireland were attacked last year and the year before. The person responsible for this vile attack is in custody. Let the criminal justice process take its course. We have got incredible communities across Northern Ireland. The challenge we face with today's online toxic nature and the inciting of hatred is that manifests itself by people doing things that they would not ordinarily do. And they are incited by people who are faceless and know nothing about this brilliant, vibrant place. I said earlier, what defined Northern Ireland last night was the reaction of the neighbours of that victim in going to his aid, without any fear for their own safety. That's the Northern Ireland that I know. And I appeal again, and that's why we're all here today, for everybody who is repulsed by what happened last night to understand the person responsible is in custody. Where there are any concerns about immigration, let's have those through a political debate. Let the criminal justice process take its course, and let's just remember that all of Ireland almost entirely contribute positively to this place, and don't be fooled or duped into a trap by people online inciting awful behaviour.
And just to chime with that, as First Minister, to all of our migrant community, that we have no tolerance for sectarianism, for hatred, for division, and to all those people out there that are stoking up tensions, particularly in who have no care or interest in the people here, but are happy to, raise tensions. I say they do not represent us. This is a society that is welcoming, that is inclusive. We are good people. And I say to everybody out there, I don't want to see any person living in fear, and we need to say no to racism, no to hatred, no to sectarianism that is out there in our society. What happened last night was horrific. People need to separate those things out.
Yeah, look, I think people want to have a conversation about immigration. I think communities are very concerned about what is happening. No community wants a danger within their community. And I do think that people are very frightened about that. That is an entirely separate debate, and I think what we're seeing very often is that frustration from people that their genuinely held concerns are not taken seriously, and there's not the action to follow up to take those issues seriously. And that does, of course, go to the heart of discussions around immigration policy, and particularly discussions around vetting as part of that process. That is entirely separate from issues here in relation to a really genuinely valued part of our community. The people who come here to make Northern Ireland their home, they work in the hospitals, they absolutely hold up our core public services. They are working in our factories and businesses right throughout Northern Ireland. And I speak to those businesses on a regular basis, and I know that they would be completely lost without those hard-working people making such a valuable contribution. Our ethnic minority community in Northern Ireland also make such a valuable contribution to our community life, our cultural life. They are part of our community. And of course, when I say that all communities should be able to feel safe, should they be walking down a street or in their own home or in their workplace, then of course that includes everyone, regardless of your race, regardless of your nationality. So my message today is very clear to our ethnic minority community. You are valued. You are our community. You are part of Northern Ireland, and we will do everything that we can to protect you as well.
Clearly, this is an incident where one individual was responsible. There are many dangerous individuals who live in Northern Ireland who were born here and have. I grew up at a time in this place where my accent alone would have or a potential threat in a community, and we were often abused for that. Though we shared nothing in common with those who were involved in that activity, we were all judged to be the same. I don't want that to happen to any person here because of the colour of their skin or their nationality or their background. This person is not representative of a whole community. He is an individual who should be held to account before the law. The only people who will be harmed if there is unrest on our streets are innocent people. Is further victims. And so I'm asking for people to be calm, to be rational at a time when it is easy to be irrational, because you're hurt, you're upset and you're angry, and because there are bad faith actors who want to stir trouble. It is not in the interests of anyone in Northern Ireland for us to see our community torn apart in these instances. And I understand that many people from our ethnic minority and foreign national community will be fearful today. They have lived through previous cycles of retribution when someone who happens to be from an ethnic minority background commits a crime. We don't do this for any other group, and we must not do it when it comes to ethnic minorities. One individual doing one awful act is not representative of everyone who lives in Northern Ireland, nor should we allow it to become so. And I would appeal to people to listen to what's been said today. The guilty person, as far as the police are concerned, is in custody. The only people who will be harmed if there is unrest are innocent.
So obviously, it's been alluded to in this press conference around some of the challenges we face in Northern Ireland. We'd already continged for challenges this summer. I was fearful because of what we've seen in the last 2 years that we could see a repetition. And last night's events obviously presents a challenge to us. But by us speaking so clearly now about the negative consequences of anybody doing anything that would result in anybody else being put in any way in danger or facing any harm, I'm hoping that sanity will prevail. And in the last 2 years, we've had so many young people in Northern Ireland whose lives have changed forever because they've gone in the criminal justice system, because we've identified them, we've arrested them, and we've successfully prosecuted them for disorder. Please don't do it. But we have got the resources to deal with this. We have already made contingencies around getting support from elsewhere. This is something that we're used to here. But I again appeal to everybody to please let prevail. Nobody wants to see anything in this incredible place of Northern Ireland other than tranquility and people getting on together. And by the way, Northern Ireland is one of the safest places to live in the United Kingdom. Almost the safest place to live. So let's remember that, and let's show that. And again, let's remember the community spirit here, very clearly last night by the neighbours of this poor victim.
have watched, and your party have watched, violence in Dublin and in the Republic of Ireland in very similar things. Why would you insist on no vetting and Polish borders from the Republic of Ireland into Dublin? If there have been checks, if there have been lots of these things in place, can you explain to one of your party's representatives, i.e. John Newton's constituents, why he is now in hospital this morning? Because your party insisted in Polish borders inside Dublin. I must say, I do absolutely praise your two officers last night. They were amazing. But what I am being told on the ground is that over-policing of Scarborough at the weekend has made those communities think twice about believing the PSNI can go the first one.
Quite the monologue there, Doug, and fake news, and on the day that's in it, totally inappropriate. I don't know any country that has open borders. I believe in an immigration system that is fair and managed and enforceable and compassionate and human rights compliant, but that is not the debate for today. The debate today is about our society, about our inclusive society, our welcoming society. Our conversation today is about our thoughts are very much with that gentleman who finds himself a victim of that violent and horrific attack last night. Our thoughts today are about creating calm in our society. So I think the message from here, from this platform, is very consistent, and I have no truck with your fake news.
But you didn't answer the question. What was your reason for the borders to stay?
I have no truck with your fake news. That is?
Oh. So, yeah, let me deal with that. Listen, the PSNI is probably the most transparent, open and accountable police service that there is in the United Kingdom. I would argue on the island of Ireland. We policed Scarborough at the weekend. There were no arrests, there were no injuries. And I know there's been some public concern about the policing response, and we are meeting with community and political leaders to understand their perspective and to explain ours. And what we've done in recent years is show this organisation for the brilliant, brilliant police service it is. You will all have watched Peelers. I appeal to you to actually think about that. The officers who will be out there tonight trying to do their best to provide community reassurance are the officers that you've seen through that television programme. Ordinary people from across the communities in Northern Ireland trying to make this a better place. We're all in this together, and we must not let other people in any way provoke any activity that we do not want in our communities. So Scarborough we will deal with, we'll be open, we'll be transparent, and we'll listen to what people have got to say, and we'll learn if we got things wrong. But that's for another day. Today is about making sure people...
An absolutely astonishing press conference in Stormont. Our man Doogie BT put a question. We couldn't quite hear it. We'll get him up in a moment. To Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin's First Minister. She lost her rag. Quite the monologue there, Doogie. Today is not the day. Today is about an inclusive society. I have no truck for your fake news. The First Minister of Northern Ireland said to GB News reporter Doogie Beattie. What kind of way is that to treat the media on a day like this? Waiting patiently throughout that incredible press conference, the perfect political storm in Stormont, a nightmare for the open border zealots. Delighted now to be joined by DUP councillor for Old Park, and that's Jordan Doran. Jordan, thank you for waiting patiently. I know that was a lengthy press conference, but I think you'll agree, quite the spectacle. We had a political class there still saying, basically, come by all. How dare you whip things up? And by the way, keep calm. Jordan, you're a councillor for the area, I understand, where this attack took place. Yep. It was despicable. And yet we still seem to have a political class making apologies.
Yep, so what happened in North Belfast last night was a complete disgrace, and whilst it's great that we seen all the Stormont leaders along with the Chief Constable come out and they're united in their condemnation in it, the public deserve answers to these issues. The public deserve to know exactly what happened, and the public, quite frankly, are demanding the facts. So there are serious questions that need to be answered around this, and they're common sense questions, really. I would absolutely align myself with the comments made by the Deputy First Minister, Emma Little Pengelly, that there is these questions that need to be answered. Most importantly, if the individual is convicted of any of these offences that he's been charged with, he needs to be deported from the United Kingdom. He needs to be deported as soon as the opportunity arises and according to law. So it is a privilege to live in this country, and that comes with responsibilities. So anyone who commits an act of violence of this magnitude forfeits that privilege.
And Jordan, we heard some details there which, let's face it, paint a picture of an open borders nightmare. The kind of thing we've been warning about on this channel for years. The kind of thing that the DUP has been bringing to attention for years. We found some key details today. This individual simply flew from Sudan to Paris, then simply flew from Paris to Dublin, and then he simply took a coach into Northern Ireland on the 10th of February 2023. That's under the Conservative Party watch. The Labour Party might be a bit relieved today to learn that. Arrived and claimed asylum. That was on the 10th of February 2023. And then on the 28th of September 2023 was granted leave to remain. And then 3 years later, wanted, held as a suspect for attempted murder. Almost the perfect case of how open borders have proven to be a disaster for Ireland.
Oh, absolutely. And whether it's the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, there doesn't seem to be anybody who can get a control on immigration. And I think this is a consequence of the failed immigration control. It has been established that this individual posed a significant risk to the community here in North Belfast and wider Belfast as a whole and Northern Ireland. So that's why we need transparency in this matter. We need to know the individual's immigration status, which we are learning details, as you've just said, and detailed when he arrived. But we need to know what checks were carried out. Were there any previous criminal history? Was there any warning signs? The public are entitled to these answers.
Yeah,
and as I said before, there are serious
Jordan, if I may quickly get another question from you, but before I know you're busy, but I want to get a question from you before we go. Repeatedly there, the Chief of Police, Chief Constable John Boucher, and all of the politicians were calling for calm. You're the councillor for the area. I'm assuming the mood in the area is very febrile tonight.
Absolutely. What was seen yesterday was an absolute disgrace. People are angry. It is a barbaric act of violence that we've seen. Where it happened was a built-up residential area, a community complex, a communal area for our young people. People have seen the footage. You've seen the footage. I've seen it. It was a brutal act of brutality. And these are horrifying. And people will rightly come out and protest. It is a legitimate way of democracy to peacefully protest in any democracy. So yes, I do align myself with all the political leaders that there needs to be calm. There is nothing to gain when you damage your own community. It takes away from the issue. So if people feel the need that they want to go out and protest, I would ask them to do so in a peaceful way.
Okay, thank you for your time today. Thanks for hanging on. I appreciate that. I sincerely do.
Not at all.
Thank you very much. DUP Councillor for Old Park, Jordan Duran. Thank you very much. Now, coming up next, we'll continue our coverage of the events in Northern Ireland with our political editor, Christopher Hope. Meanwhile, in search of some holiday sun, then here is forecasters from the top European destinations.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's like tricking people into thinking it's something greater than it is, but really it's a hot dog bun with icing on. And when you're going to a shop and you've got an ice bun and right next to it you've got this beautiful plump glazed donut, which one are you going to pick? You're going to be treat-wise and you're going to pick the one that's not a hot dog covered with icing.
Fair point.
I haven't had a nice bun for years.
So what kind of cakes are people buying instead?
There we are, you see, that's right. What's the most popular cake now?
I would say in terms of treats, people are liking really chunky cookies, and because that's got a hit of nostalgia as well, because I know ice bun is so steeped in nostalgia.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is England's first ever cycle street. But what is a cycle street, I hear you ask? Well, take a look. It's basically a cycle lane on steroids. The whole road is a cycle lane. So let's see what it's like. It's designed to be safer for cyclists. Cyclists have priority over cars. Cars still can use the road, but look, it's a cycle street. The council say it's safer for cyclists. Cars have to go more slowly. There's also fewer parking spots for cars so that they can't open their doors in a cyclist's face, and there's fewer blind spots as well. They've also made the pavements wider in order for pedestrians to have easier access walking on this street. But all of this came at a cost of £2 million and took 7 months to build.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Scandal isn't exactly the word, but of course we are in a time of, as you know, very considerable sensitivity when it comes to royal finances and any money spent on the royal family.
So, I mean, should this money be going back to the taxpayer? Is that the real problem here?
I think that the argument is that the taxpayer could have got a better bargain from what was negotiated at the beginning and when this began. I mean, this is not an dissimilar arrangement to that, for example, with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor when it came to the main house. But as I say, subletting is something that apparently they're doing. The way the Public Accounts Committee in the House of Commons will be looking into the way the Crown Estate handles royal property.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's approaching 10 to 5. Breaking news for you on a very busy news day. It's this. The Home Office has now confirmed that the individual suspected of the attack in Belfast is a Sudanese national with leave to remain in the UK until 2028. We've found out he entered the UK in 2023 and was granted refugee status the same year. The individual claims to have entered the UK via the Common Travel Area. And just in, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has commented on the stabbing in Belfast.
Last night on the streets of Belfast, barbaric, horrific in every way. We know that the man was of Sudanese origin. Number 10 are point blank refusing to say whether he came here legally or illegally. All that we know is that he was given leave to remain. Well, I'm sorry, but we're giving out that sort of status. We're dishing it out like Smarties to people we haven't properly checked. And I very much doubt whether this man should have been in Britain at all.
You're saying people need to be careful, but actually, do you have to be careful about what you say about how you deal with this issue when people are appealing for calm and asking for the police to do their job?
That's right. The government always appeal for calm. Let's be calm. Don't cause a fuss. Don't frighten the horses, unless, of course, it's George Floyd, somewhere in the Midwest of America, and then then it's fine to be angry. I have made it really clear for years. Anybody that comes to Britain illegally should not be allowed to stay. And when it comes to those who legally come to Britain, if they're coming to work and contribute and integrate, that's fine. But if they're not, frankly, they shouldn't be here.
Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, reacting to the Belfast stabbing. Chris Hope, political editor, joins me in the studio. Chris, this is the perfect political storm in Stormont. It's a complete and utter political nightmare. Nigel Farage there saying they're dishing out asylum like Smarties. And when you look at this case, and just to repeat the timeline of this individual, simply flew from Sudan to Paris, flew from
we don't
Paris
know how he got to Paris.
To Dublin.
We don't know. He went to Paris.
No, he said he flew from Sudan to Paris. That's what the police officer said. Flew from Paris to Dublin, and then simply took a coach. On the 10th of February 2023, arrived in Northern Ireland, claimed asylum, and was granted asylum just 7 months later on September the 28th. Nigel Farage there saying dishing out asylum like Smarties.
That's right. I mean, why was he given leave to remain? An asylum seeker. This poses questions across 3 broad policy areas. But let's not forget there's a man fighting for his life in hospital because of this. But it's Brexit. There's no hard border with the rest of Ireland. Is this part of the problem now? Should that be reviewed somehow, the hardness of that border? Because there are no checks taking place. The PSNI had no idea who this guy was. The Home Office didn't say there's an asylum seeker who could come here from Dublin. Perhaps they didn't have to. There's a security issue, an immigration issue, a soft borders issue. Who are we allowing into this country through what's called this back door? And it's a Tory issue. This happened when the Tories were in power. It happened because of the Tory deal on Brexit. So many questions here, I think, for the governing classes. They looked a bit rattled, frankly, particularly by the questions from our colleague Dougie Beattie, who was told he was spouting fake news by the First Minister of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, Michelle O'Neill, the First Minister of Northern Ireland for Sinn Féin, faced a lengthy question from Dougie Beattie. We had difficulty hearing it due to the echo in Stormont, but we will get Dougie Beattie up at the top of the next hour for confirmation of what he asked the First Minister, but she said, I have no time for your fake news. I have no truck with your fake news. Quite the monologue there. Today is not the day for this.
But today is the day for this.
It is.
That is the point, because communities were looking at that and saying, there was one minister there, I think the Justice Secretary Minister, saying an isolated case, but this is a problem. This is a security issue for the people of Northern Ireland and the wider UK.
And the fact of the matter is, somebody is lying gravely injured, and the paper trail will now go back to Sudan, step by step. We now understand the situation emerging, although the Chief Constable, John Boucher, did confirm that this individual was not known to the authorities, so it appears there's no criminal record there. More information may come out, but for now we do know we have one heck of a political storm in Stormont. Chris Hope, we're going to get full reaction from you throughout the rest of the show. We're going to get our man Dougie Beattie up at the top of the next hour to find out precisely what he asked the First Minister there in a quite astonishing press conference in Stormont. The details pouring out now about the suspected attacker and the attempted murder case and that brutal knife attack in Belfast as the community is on edge. We'll be live from Belfast with full information after this. Stick with us, but first, time for your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen plenty of heavy showers today, and there's more to come tonight and again tomorrow, and staying on the fairly fresh side. Pretty hefty downpours out there for this evening's rush hour. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. The thundery showers focused across eastern parts of England and Scotland. They will tend to fade, generally turning drier in the east. Always further west will keep some showers going, getting blown in on a fairly brisk breeze. That breeze, though, easing a touch through the night, which will allow temperatures to dip down to single figures in some spots. On to Wednesday, another case of sunshine and showers, with eastern areas generally starting off with the sunshine, and further west, that's where most of the showers will be. That's certainly the case first thing in the morning, so generally a fine start on the east coast of Scotland. Further west, some sunshine between the showers, which will be zipping in here, and for Northern Ireland, some heavy ones over northern England and parts of West Wales. Largely dry to start with over East Anglia and the southeast. Some morning sunshine here. Wales and southwest England seeing the showers again blown in on a fairly brisk wind. Subtle changes as we go through the day. Again, the clouds will build up. We'll see some thundery downpours come the afternoon, mostly focused over the Midlands, northeast England, and then come the afternoon, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So Thursday's a different day, not much sunshine, but yes, more rain. Some of that rain likely to be heavy as it spreads its way slowly northwards and eastwards, turning a bit drier in the west later on. Probably feeling a little more humid, but temperatures, again, mostly in the mid to high teens.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A82 Old Kilpatrick is closed southbound due to an incident. There's congestion on the M4 westbound between junctions 24 and 26. The M62 in Kirklees has a lane shut for a tyre change, with normal conditions expected by 5:15. A collision on the M1 northbound in Nottinghamshire causes 15-minute delays. The M11 northbound slip road at junction 6 from the M25 anti-clockwise is fully closed following an accident. And on the trains, major disruption continues on the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway between London Paddington and Heathrow terminals. And Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. It's an action-packed show today. Here's what's coming up on your menu.
It's my understanding that the suspect was granted leave to remain in the United Kingdom on the 28th of September of 2023.
Short while ago, the Police Service of Northern Ireland and the Home Office now confirm that the suspect of the Belfast stabbing is a Sudanese national with leave to remain in the United Kingdom until 2028. And this comes as the political leaders and the police call for calm as the nation is braced for disorder.
Is that he was given leave to remain. Well, I'm sorry, but we're giving out that sort of status. We're dishing it out like Smarties to people we haven't properly checked. And I very much doubt whether this man should have been in Britain at all.
As you heard there, meanwhile, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage accuses the government of giving out leave to remain like Smarties. Is he right as we face the perfect political storm in Stormont? And the White House warns Sir Keir Starmer not to ban social media for under-16s, seeing it as an attack on American companies. Could the White House hit back, hit Britain with tariffs if the UK, in response, will be crossing stateside to find out? And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has got in a right old flap with Reform UK after they removed the Ukrainian flag from its council buildings. Zelensky blasted. Small mistake that can break a big friendship. So here's the question. Should Reform UK bow to Ukraine or stand by their guns? And that's all coming up in your next hour. It's the perfect political storm in Stormont as the details emerge of the assailant, the suspect in the attempted murder, the vicious knife attack in Belfast last night. The details are coming out piece by piece. We now know that the man is a Sudanese national. We know he flew from Sudan to Paris, flew from Paris to Dublin, then simply took a coach to Northern Ireland, where he claimed asylum on the 10th of February in 2023, at a time when the Conservative Party was in power and we were meant to have taken back control of our borders via Brexit. But there was no border control. He simply swanned into Northern Ireland. And then months later, on the 28th of September 2023, was granted leave to remain in the United Kingdom, the soft underbelly of asylum. And then 3 years later, suspected to have committed that attack last night, as Belfast prepares itself for a potentially very uncalm evening where the political leaders, the police chiefs are saying we need calm on the streets. Don't divert resources away from genuine crimes. We're facing, well, many people believe it was a disaster waiting to happen. A broken asylum system, anybody in the world simply wandering into the United Kingdom via the Republic of Ireland. The political analysis begins now. The public will demand answers in this case. Dougie Beattie, our reporter, asked a question of the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill of Sinn Féin in Ireland, which precipitated the response, "I have no truck with your fake news." What did Dougie Beattie ask her? We'll find out in a short moment's time when we speak to our Northern Ireland reporter. Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening to you. 4 minutes past 5. Our top stories. Leaders in Northern Ireland have called for calm amid fears that planned protests in response to the Belfast knife attack could lead to disorder. A Sudanese man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. The victim, a man in his 40s, is in serious condition with significant injuries to his face, neck and back. Police believe the suspect was granted leave to remain after arriving in Northern Ireland from Dublin in 2023. First Minister Michelle O'Neill has urged people to ignore calls from those who she says don't care about Northern Ireland to incite hatred and fear, an appeal reiterated by the Justice Minister, Naomi Long.
There will, of course, be those who wish to take the pain, the suffering, the fear, the genuine concern in those communities and weaponise it for other purposes. I would appeal to communities not to allow themselves to be used and abused in that way, to remain calm, to allow the police to do their work in terms of their investigation, and to allow the justice system to hold the individual responsible to account.
The Prime Minister has described the attack as horrific and sickening, saying he has no tolerance for such abhorrent scenes of violence. DUP leader Gavin Robinson's called on Sir Keir Starmer to secure the UK's borders.
Will he confirm that he and his government recognise that uncontrolled immigration needs to end? Will he confirm that the government needs to reassure and protect our population who for too long have had their concerns ignored?
Lebanese officials say 8 people have been killed after the Israeli military carried out fresh strikes on the southern city of Tyre. Thousands of people fled after Israel issued an evacuation order for the entire city for the first time. Tehran says Israeli attacks on Lebanon and the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah must end before any deals agreed with the US. President Trump, though, says a deal is still on the cards.
We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran. That hasn't stopped, and we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. The blockade continues to hold 100%.
Groups working for hostile foreign powers, including Iran's Revolutionary Guard, could be banned as early as next month. Sir Keir Starmer pledged to fast-track the legislation following a series of anti-Semitic attacks, including the firebombing of Jewish ambulances and the stabbing of 2 men in Golders Green. The new National Security State Threats Bill could see people working for hostile powers and their proxies jailed for up to 14 years. Meanwhile, a 5th person has been charged in connection with the arson attack on Jewish community ambulances in North London. Subhan Ahmed, a British citizen from East London, has been charged with assisting an offender. The Conservatives are calling for the rules that require public bodies to promote equality when making decisions to be scrapped. Kemi Badenoch has pledged to restore common sense, saying the public sector equality duty has resulted in some groups being preferred over others. The Tory leader believes it's been used to promote dangerous and divisive agendas, and the current laws represent an overcorrection.
Authorities conditioned to see minority status as victimhood. They withhold information, they avoid difficult conversations, and they allow reputational concerns to dominate their decision-making.
A teacher and 2 pupils have been taken to hospital after they were injured in a knife attack at a school in Manchester. A 14-year-old schoolgirl has been arrested on suspicion of assault following the incident at the Co-op Academy in Blackley earlier this morning. Their injuries are not believed to be serious, and the school has been closed for the day. An abusive man's been jailed for life for the murder of his partner. 45-year-old Clifton George killed 46-year-old Annabelle Rook, stabbing her 31 times during a row at their East London home. In the aftermath of the killing, George started a fire in the basement in order to cause a gas canister explosion. He was sentenced to at least 23 years in prison. Finally, a top Somali referee will not officiate at the World Cup after being denied entry into the US. Omar Artan, who was set to become the first Somali to take control of a World Cup match, was stopped by US Customs and Border Patrol and deemed inadmissible due to vetting concerns. Somalia, one of several countries on a travel ban list introduced by the Trump administration. You're fully up to date. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And a last look at the finance for the day. $1.35 is what you'll get for a pound. A pound will also buy you €1.15. Gold costs £3,554 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 stopped trading a short time ago at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Aaron. The nation, in fact, the world now is in complete and utter shock today after a man in his 40s was viciously attacked in Belfast in a stabbing last night. Northern Irish police say they believe the Sudanese suspect was granted leave to remain nearly 3 years ago.
It's my understanding that the suspect wanted leave to remain in the United Kingdom on 28th September of 2020. Again, this is to be confirmed, but I'm informed that he made his way from Sudan to Paris at dates unknown, and from Paris he flew to Dublin at a date yet to be determined. From my current understanding, he then travelled from Dublin to Belfast by bus on the 10th of February of 2023.
There you go. Simply flew from Sudan to Dublin and then simply took a coach into the United Kingdom and claimed asylum. And as a result of that, a man is now in hospital in a critical condition following the incident, which left him with significant injuries to his face, his neck, his eyes and his back. Well, let's cross live now to GB News reporter Doogie Beattie, who joins us from outside Stormont. Doogie, it's fair to say a political storm broke out in Stormont there. You asked the question of Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin's First Minister. She replied saying, "I have no truck with your fake news." You completely rattled her, Doogie. What did you ask her?
Well, I asked her as First Minister of Northern Ireland, was it not her job to protect the citizens of Northern Ireland? And then I asked her why she insisted, and her party insisted, on a porous border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, because there is so many incidents quite like this in the Republic of Ireland. And could she then explain to her party's constituent, i.e. John Finucane of her party is the MP for that area, why he has ended up in the state that he is in, because her party's policy is for open borders in Ireland. And this is what she said back to me.
I don't know any country that has open borders. I believe in an immigration system that is fair and managed and enforceable and compassionate and human rights compliant, but that is not the debate for today. The debate today is about our society, about our inclusive society, our welcoming society. Our conversation today is about our thoughts are very much with that gentleman who finds himself a victim of that violent and horrific attack last night. Our thoughts today are about creating calm in our society. So I think the message from here, from this platform, is very consistent.
Well, you can hear what she said, what her messages were, but today is the day to talk about this. There never seems to be a day to talk about this. And all we hear is platitudes as they come out and condemn exactly what people in these areas are saying, that politicians are not listening to them. And they come back with, this is not the day to talk about this, and then claim that it's fake news. It's not fake news. Exactly what has happened in Dublin is happening here in Northern Ireland because of a European immigration policy that is now making its way into Northern Ireland. And tonight, Northern Ireland is looking down the barrel of some disturbances here inside the province. It might not be tonight, Martin. If it goes to the weekend, it'll go all weekend. This is the problem. And what we're looking at that is coming online saying this road's going to close and that road's going to close. These organisers are trying to stretch the police, and then you wonder where the real target is going to be.
You're exactly right. Today is the day to talk about it. It precisely is the day the people of Northern Ireland, the people of Ireland, the people of the entire United Kingdom, because Northern Ireland, of course, is a part of the United Kingdom, and you and I have been saying for years how things like this were a disaster waiting to happen because there's no control over that border. And to find out today, Doogie, that a Sudanese asylum seeker simply flew into Dublin from Paris and simply took a coach to Belfast, where he claimed asylum on the 10th of February 2023 when the Conservatives were in power, and then was granted leave to remain. And now, as a consequence, a man is gravely injured as a consequence. This is a political disaster, and Doogie, one that feels very much like it's been waiting to happen.
Well, it has, Martin, and actually last Christmas, if you remember, I looked at and followed 7 people that came into Dublin, left Dublin, got on a train to Belfast, then got a bus to Larne and crossed into the United Kingdom. It crossed into Britain. Those 7 people that left Dublin ended up in your neck of the woods, and we have no idea who they are. The very fact that the Chief Constable today, and this is a very good Chief Constable, this Chief Constable is a top cop, there's no doubt about that, but the very fact that he is having to research, number one, the nationality of this man, and when and how he actually got into the United Kingdom is frightening. This is the man that's in charge of all of policing inside Northern Ireland, and I'm sure he is scratching his head himself this morning saying how did this happen, and why did it happen, and why are these areas of deprived, socially deprived areas being flooded with immigrants? This we have said about it. If you check back to Boris Johnson's deal, I was standing in Saintfield and I actually said that Ireland, north and south, would become the dumping ground for Europe's immigrants. Well, it looks to have come to pass. And right across the island of Ireland, north and south, nationalists are coming together to oppose this, because it is day and daily in the Republic of Ireland, but it's not covered, and it is now starting to show its head once again in Northern Ireland. And I must say, Martin, this video is actually just so shocking because it catches it so graphically what exactly went on there. It's not that it hasn't went on before, it's the fact that the public actually got to see it is the shocking part of this.
Diggy, once again, just excellently holding power to account. You know, you're doing your job, a proper journalist, holding the First Minister to account on a day where they would like us to be saying it's not the day to talk about it. It's a day for kumbayas. Doogie, today is the day to talk about it. And thank you, my friend, for asking that pertinent question. Let's come back to you before the end of the show to see what the protest might be looking like later on. Doogie Beattie there outside Stormont. Thank you very, very much indeed. indeed. Back to Westminster, our political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, Daubney is exactly right. Today is the day to talk about this, and you were nodding along there because we can all agree that Chief Constable John Boucher is a top cop, but to not know the nationality of this suspect for attempted murder, to not know how they got into the country, it makes people feel afraid.
This man was not known to the PSNI, said John Boucher. He seemed like a very competent police chief, one of the most challenging roles, of course, in all policing in the UK, policing in Northern Ireland. Not known, he said. That was striking. The Home Office, do they not tell the PSNI when people arrive here with no known background and grant them asylum to stay in the community, grant leave to remain as an asylum seeker the 28th of September 2023 on the Conservative government's watch, arrived here on the 10th of February from Paris, 2023. A 100-mile bus journey takes 2 hours on the coach, and you're into the UK. Now,
and by the way, we don't know at this point at what point he arrived in Dublin. We don't know how long he's been in the Republic.
No, we don't know.
There are so many gaps in this.
What's happening here, and the Home Office are now saying he arrived in the UK through the Common Travel Area. This predates the European Economic Community. Back to the early 60s, you can travel where you like without a passport within the UK. That's the point. We allow Irish people to come here. We can go to Ireland if we want to.
But Sudanese people?
Well, he went into Ireland under the Schengen, where you're not challenged at all. Because
you voted to take back control.
Well, that's right.
This is the Brexit story.
And this is why the politics of this is difficult for Michelle O'Neill. It's really where Emma Little-Pengelly has excelled today, and also
DUP.
DUP. She's Michelle O'Neill's deputy as First Minister, and also we've seen in the UK Parliament here, Gavin Robinson making those points earlier for the DUP. The DUP have been long concerned about the soft border. They wanted to harden that border up in the Brexit talks. That was not allowed under the Tories. Under the Tories Brexit deal, we have this soft border with Ireland. They'll be saying, well, look, this is what happens, and that's why you heard Gavin Robinson, I thought, selling it eloquently in Parliament earlier, that people, they don't feel protected. They want reasonable protection for our people, he said, who have long been concerned and had their concerns ignored. There is uncontrolled immigration. That is where the DUP stand, and this looks like it's proven their point.
Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Stick with us, but I'm delighted to get to my next guest now, and that's the former head of organised crime at the Police Service of Northern Ireland, and that's Roy McComb. Roy, welcome to the show. A very, very tense situation we have upon our hands this evening. Chief Constable there, John Boucher, calling for calm, but Belfast feels very much like a city on the brink.
It does, and this is a part of Belfast, North Belfast, that has endured many years of violence throughout the Troubles. 1 out of every 7 murders that were committed during the Troubles happened in a square mile centred around this part of Belfast. So this is not a community that has been unable to recognise violence and death and destruction over the years. This has sadly been well used to it. But over the last 24 hours, you've witnessed a community looking at a level of violence, looking at what is effectively a level of medieval barbarism that has been committed on its doorsteps, and it has sent a real shockwave across the community, not only in North Belfast, but across the whole of Northern Ireland. And I'm taking phone calls and speaking to people who are expressing real concern. You know, family members that are being sent home from work early this evening so that they can't get stuck in protests that are breaking out randomly and sporadically around Belfast in opposing what is seen to be in many areas uncontrolled and unidentified and illegal migration, which is changing the dynamic and the features of Northern Ireland.
And Roy, you vocalised something very, very eloquently there. It's the genuine concerns of working class communities who have said for many, many years they're concerned about uncontrolled immigration, but we seem to have a disconnect with our political class. We heard earlier from the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, who was still talking about inclusivity, and, you know, today is not the day for a conversation about immigration. But Roy, today is a day for it. There's been a disaster, and many people fear it's been a disaster that's waiting to happen. Surely the people of Belfast, the people of the United Kingdom, the people of the world are allowed to say, we never voted for this.
Well, let's be clear. This isn't just a problem for the citizens of Belfast or indeed Northern Ireland. What this incident has exposed is the non-existence of the checks and balances for somebody who can get into the United Kingdom through not a soft border with the Republic of Ireland, but a non-existent border. Somebody who can fly apparently from France, using the Schengen Agreement to get into the Republic of Ireland, and then to use the common travel arrangements to get into Northern Ireland by simply jumping on a bus without there being any checks or balances. And the question that I would ask for colleagues within the Home Office is, when that person arrived in Northern Ireland, what information was shared with the Police Service of Northern Ireland? What level of risk assessment was undertaken? What monitoring of that person has been undertaken in the last 3 years whilst he has been here? Has there been any breaches, real or perceived breaches? Have there been any intelligence issues about this person's activities? Has any of that been shared with the law enforcement agency that has the principal responsibility for protecting the citizens of Northern Ireland? Or, as the Chief Constable has appeared to say today, we didn't know who this person was until last night. And the first time we saw him is when it appeared that he was trying to decapitate one of our own citizens. Now, that's an alarming gap in our information sharing, if indeed that is the case. And I think there are reasonable questions that should be asked between the Chief Constable, political leaders, and those that have the authority to manage the border, such as it is across this United Kingdom.
Roy, you so eloquently vocalise the tragedy. It's just a dereliction of duty, it feels to me. It's the dereliction of duty from a political class, a porous border to just ostensibly an open border. It just feels like a complete and utter betrayal of the working class communities that have to live with this.
Let's be clear, Martin, there were political decisions made a number of years ago that brought us to having an Irish sea border. Now, I don't take a position on that. My background is in law enforcement, not politics. But what you're seeing today is the outworkings of those decision making. We do not have a border between one part of the European Union and the United Kingdom. Brexit was supposed to bring back control of our borders. And in Northern Ireland, we simply don't have a border. And so this was a political decision that was taken by those who thought it was the right thing to do. And I think the response by the First Minister today shows her discomfort around the fact that those decisions are coming back to haunt them, because it's within the constituency of her own Member of Parliament for North Belfast, who now has to stand up and say, why were we so exposed to somebody who snuck into the country without apparently any checks or balances being taken, and exposed us as members of the North Belfast constituency to the risk and what we then saw last night? I mean, this gave me shivers when I saw the video. It reminded me of the horrific murder of Lee Rigby in 2013. This could have been, and may yet be, a murder. We could be dealing with a gentleman who has significant life-changing injuries, and who may yet pass away. So, you know, this is an issue that will go on beyond today.
Roy, what a fantastic guest. It's so much to get your head around, but thank you for helping us to understand in some capacity. I think a lot of people just feel completely discombobulated by this. Worth pointing out, of course, that the murder of Lee Rigby was terror-related. We don't know the motives. We've heard today this wasn't terror-related from the police, but look, thanks for joining us on the show today. That's the former head of organised crime at the Police Service of Northern Ireland, Roy McComb. What a fantastic guest. We need to make sure we get him back on throughout the rest of this week. And thank you to you, Chris Hope. Still to come, Volodymyr Zelensky hit out at Reform UK for some of its councils remove Ukrainian flags from its council buildings. I'll put Zelensky's comments to a senior Reform councillor next. Zelensky in a right old flap about flags, and Donald Trump is angry with Keir Starmer's clampdown on social media. But could the US president now get revenge by imposing tech tariffs on the UK? That's next here on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, here's one for you. Could Donald Trump impose new tech tariffs on the UK as revenge for Keir Starmer's social media clampdown? Well, the White House has claimed that the proposed social media ban on under-16s, which will leave America's tech giants facing strict regulation, is too broad. The Technology Secretary Liz Kendall says she won't be swayed in any way, shape or form from doing what she believes is right for children and families of this country. Let's cross live now to Texas and speak with Justin Young, who's the host of the Politics podcast, and it's superb. Justin, do you think that Trump might bite back and slam some tariffs on Britain?
Well, this has been a long brewing thing for the tech sector and the Trump administration. They have long bristled under taxes and regulations that have been imposed specifically by the European Union and other countries in the European continent. Fines are a big issue. And when Trump came back into power in 2024, you did see a lot of tech giants that came to Mar-a-Lago, and one of their asks was, is the White House going to protect American industry and fight back against some of this stuff? There's certainly an element of that in play, as well as just a larger issue of the J.D. Vance wing of the MAGA coalition that views some of the social media laws, specifically in the UK, as antithetical to Western values.
And the point about that, Justin, is that the tech giants will no doubt try and throw this legislation into the treacle by saying there could be a financial impact if you're limiting our audience, and if you can't prove that there is a tangible harm, then you're restricting our business practice. And we've seen, as you say, with Brussels before, the tech firms, Google, Apple, Meta, Amazon and X, they all said, if you come messing with our profit regime, we're going to hit you back.
Yeah, this is probably more about leverage. As all Donald Trump tariffs are about leverage. They're the way that he can invent leverage in the shortest amount of time. Now, whether or not that's legal, whether or not they stand, I do think that they are invented so they can be taken away if the White House is given something. What he wants out of the Keir Starmer government, how long the Keir Starmer government is going to be here, those are the big questions that will likely be answered in time.
I think that's a fair question to ask. I mean, who knows who the Prime Minister may be even by the end of the year. But big tech is big bucks, and it's American. It's American as apple pie, and Donald Trump is so fiercely protective. Do you think this could even further sour the already tested special relationship?
You know, on this kind of stuff, I think a lot of times, again, if you look at the J.D. Vance side of this, not necessarily the Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the tariffs that wants some kind of leverage so there can be a renegotiated trade deal. The J.D. Vance side is probably the more ideologically aligned. And when you look at stuff like this, I think he, obviously in his wildest dreams, hopes to be president in several years. And when he's president, that there would be more of a conservative leadership in the United Kingdom. And I think that those people, the voters that would put a reform government in, for example, would be more open to the J.D. Vance wing of free speech and loosening up those kinds of laws. And I think that's what stuff like this is more trying to get to, that there should be an even free speech playing field.
Do people in America talk about the perilous state of free speech in the United Kingdom as much as we like to think they do? I mean, J.D. Vance talks about it. Now, Donald Trump talks about it, how we're living in a dystopian world over here where free speech is clamped. There are more people in jail in Britain for tweets than there are in Soviet Russia. Mm-hmm. Do people talk about that, or is this really Brits once again being a bit self-obsessed?
I think, Martin, just to tell a secret to you and your audience, we're all a little bit self-obsessed at the end of the day, and certainly Americans are no exception to that. There's elements of online discourse that do mention that, and specifically concepts of going back and forth and being free to speak about certain things in a increasingly digital world is a bit more of a universal concept, and it is looked at as more in peril in places like Europe and the UK, not to mention China, where I think it's totally fallen. But if you're looking at rising populations or important populations to the world stage. But to answer your question most simply, because brevity is indeed the soul of wit, no, nobody talks about it.
Except us. Justin, it's always a pleasure having your company. Justin Young, the host of the Politics podcast. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. And may I add, though, that the importance of social media. Think about what happened in Belfast last night, as shocking and grotesque as it is. We're talking about that because of the power of social media, a new way of spreading news quickly, globally. Still to come, I'll talk about the reform councils that have taken down Ukrainian flags outside of civic buildings. Well, Volodymyr Zelensky, that's him, the pint-sized president, he's warned that small mistakes can break big friendships. So that's the question. Should Reform UK take the knee to Ukraine, or should they take the flag of Ukraine down? I'll talk to a council leader next. But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, as I always say, stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Traffic is partially blocked on the A9 northbound off-slip to the A85 due to a broken-down vehicle. The M4 eastbound at junction 33 near Capel-Llanilturn is congested. In North Lincolnshire, one lane is closed westbound on the A180 due to a breakdown. One lane is closed on the M1 northbound between junctions 26 and 27 in Nottinghamshire following a collision. The M20 westbound in Kent has one lane closed due to a breakdown. And on the trains, disruption continues on the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway between London Paddington and Heathrow terminals and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
At afternoon. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen plenty of heavy showers today, and there's more to come tonight and again tomorrow, and staying on the fairly fresh side. Pretty hefty downpours out there for this evening's rush hour. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. The thundery showers focused across eastern parts of England and Scotland. They will tend to fade, generally turning drier in the east. Always further west will keep some showers going, getting blown in on a fairly brisk breeze. That breeze, though, easing a touch through the night, which will allow temperatures to dip down to single figures in some spots. On to Wednesday, another case of sunshine and showers, with eastern areas generally starting off with the sunshine, and further west, that's where most of the showers will be. That's certainly the case first thing in the morning, so generally a fine start on the east coast of Scotland. Further west, some sunshine between the showers, which will be zipping in here and for Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones over northern England and parts of West Wales. Largely dry to start with over East Anglia and the southeast. Some morning sunshine here. Wales and southwest England seeing the showers again blown in on a fairly brisk wind. Subtle changes as we go through the day. Again, the clouds will build up. We'll see some thundery downpours come the afternoon, mostly focused over the Midlands, northeast England, and then come the afternoon, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So Thursday's a different day, not much sunshine, but yes, more rain. Some of that rain likely to be heavy as it spreads its way slowly northwards and eastwards, turning a bit drier in the west later on. Probably feeling a little more humid, but temperatures, again, mostly in the mid to high teens.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. 5:39 is your time. Be with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News now. Volodymyr Zelensky has slammed Reform UK-run councils for taking down his country's flag. The pint-sized Ukrainian president warned this kind of small mistake can break a big relationship, a big friendship, as he highlighted the importance of bilateral relations. Well, GB News asked the public whether councils should fly the Ukrainian flag.
It should stay. Yeah, I agree. Solidarity. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I personally stand with the people of Ukraine. I think that they have been persecuted, and I think that they are the victims of war crimes. So I think that flying a flag in solidarity is nothing negative. In fact, I think it promotes a positive and accepting message to those people.
I don't see what's wrong with it. Just because we're in Britain doesn't mean we just have to fly the British flag.
I think it very much depends on the context of it as to why that flag happens to be there. I think there'll be cases for when it can and other cases when it wouldn't be.
I stand with the people of Ukraine, said the commuters of Paddington, London. Well, joining me now is Darren Grimes from Reform UK, of course, Durham County Council. Grimesy, now, when you got into politics, I knew you'd go a long way, but I didn't know you'd be going to war with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Well, quite. Look, Martin, I think fundamentally people are absolutely sick in parts of the world like this one of their public buildings looking like some student model United Nations. You know, where does it end? There are some people that would actually quite like for us here in Durham to be flying the Palestinian flag. And to that, you know, I would say a very swift no way, Jose. It's fundamentally not about Ukraine. It's about the flags that should fly above British public buildings backed by UK taxpayers. Reform's view is simple, that it should be British flags being flown from British buildings. Zelensky's totally entitled to his view. He's leading a country at war and he wants international support and fundamentally international money and for those coffers to continue coming. But Durham County Council, we answer to the people of County Durham, not to foreign governments, no matter how noble their cause. You know, fundamentally, council buildings should be flying the Union Jack, the St George's Cross or the county flag. That's not anti-Ukraine, Martin. It's pro-Britain. And I'm sorry that the residents of Paddington disagree with that assessment.
And that's the point. You know, people might not like it, but it was always the party manifesto pledge to do this. And Volodymyr Zelensky, to my knowledge, doesn't take part in elections in County Durham. And so the point is this, from the woke side of the agenda, if you like. Isn't it funny how yesterday they were slamming into J.D. Vance for daring to talk about the Henry Novak case. They were slamming into Pete Hegseth for daring to say that Britain couldn't control its borders. And they said, keep out, it's foreign interference. Yet as soon as Zelensky says you need to be flying a flag, the woke are after you saying, yes, Darren Grimes, get that Ukrainian flag back up.
Yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that if I was to start flying the United States flag, that there would be a fair few of them getting their knickers in a twist over that, wouldn't they? I mean, fundamentally, the facts on the ground are, well, what has been petty throughout all of this is turning every public building into a billboard for whatever happens to be a fashionable cause at the time. Now, I was called, Martin, homophobic for taking down the pride flag, and I said, well, I've got news for you, love. You know, as a gay man myself, I think that that's an utterly preposterous claim to make against us. It's basically the fundamentals. I go back to them. Public institutions funded by British taxpayers ought to be flying our own symbols. It's about setting a marker that we stand for you, right? We stand for the public that pay for us to be there. We've welcomed Ukrainian refugees. We've welcomed communities across Britain raising money and sending aid and weapons and all the rest of it. Brilliant. The question isn't whether we support Ukraine. The question is whether British council buildings should permanently display foreign national flags. We don't believe they should. It's about realigning the priorities in line with the public, about your interests, your potholes, your special educational needs children, your grandmother in care. The friendships between nations are not built on pieces of cloth hanging outside of our county halls. I think, to be perfectly honest, President Zelensky has been far too hysterical when he says that it could be the end of a friendship. That's not the marker of a friend, in my view.
Well, Darren Grimes, it sounds very much like you're offering the olive branch of friendship there to your counterpart in Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Darren Grimes, always a pleasure and never a chore to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed for your company today. That was Darren Grimes. Now, coming up next, we've got all the very latest on last night's vicious stabbing of a man in Belfast. Police now believe the Sudanese suspect was granted leave to remain in the UK nearly 3 years ago after simply wandering into the United Kingdom on a coach with no checks whatsoever. It's astonishing. Meanwhile, if you search some holiday sun, here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Lots of sunshine on offer across Italy this Wednesday. Still a bit more cloud and the chance of 1 or 2 showers over eastern Spain. A cool breeze blowing in Madeira. Sunny spells, though, for the Canaries. Lots of sunshine for the Algarve. There's that cloudier weather over eastern Spain. Small chance of a shower or two here. And inland over Greece, 1 or 2 showers are possible on Wednesday. But plenty of sunshine over the Greek islands. More sunshine to come through Italy. And we'll see temperatures on the rise in Barcelona this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Veterinary surgeons and such as yourself, I mean, you're very, very highly trained, but it just feels so expensive when there's something wrong with your animal. And it does also seem that insurance doesn't cover the very things you need.
There's been huge advancements in veterinary medicine. 20 to 30 years ago, we had no CT scanners in practice, we had no MRI machines, our blood tests were very rudimentary. And for that, you could do that very cheaply. Now we can offer you this incredibly high level of care that comes at a high cost. Everybody wants this extremely high level of care for their pet. Of course, you want the best for your pet, but there's nobody else to pay for that. So if you can be honest and say, I can't do that at that amount of money, we'll find you a way. Yeah. We will.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Lovely to see them all looking rather laid back and informal, wasn't it?
Yes, you know, we're used to all of these grand royal events, and although this was undoubtedly the society wedding of the year, a very low-key event, they deliberately wanted to keep it as a private affair, as much as one can when one is a member of the royal family, of course. But it was a private ceremony, it was very intimate, and that's really the way that they've lived, that Peter Phillips has lived his life recently, and I think he wants to continue that. Interesting to note also that in this modern age, this is a blended family at this marriage, because they're both entering this as their second marriage. Of course, Peter Phillips previously married to Autumn Kelly, with whom he has two daughters, Savannah and Isla, who are 15 and 14. They were bridesmaids.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dorothea, how does it feel being here today, joining other veterans?
It's marvellous, because for years after the war ended, nobody knew that women had even done anything during the war. And also, they suddenly discovered that, good heavens, women have got brains. They can think for themselves and for the country. And it was naturally assumed that everybody would willingly do their bit for England. And they would have. We had one purpose in life, which was to free the world from Nazism.
The People's Channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:49. You'll be Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now, the nation, the world, in fact, is in complete and utter shock today after a man in his 40s was viciously attacked in Belfast last night in a stabbing attack. Northern Irish police say they now believe the Sudanese suspect was granted leave to remain nearly 3 years ago after arriving in Northern Ireland via coach. Simply swanned into Britain and claimed asylum. Let's speak now with GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, this is a political nightmare, and it reopens the wounds of Brexit, and it reopens the whole conversation about open borders. This individual got to Sudan, flew from Sudan to Paris, from Paris to Dublin, then simply took a coach to Belfast and became an asylum seeker. And the paper trail of who was at the helm at the time is going to give people sleepless nights.
This could be awkward for opposition parties. Look at the dates here. This individual went to the UK on the 10th of February 2023. Was given leave to remain on the 28th of September 2023. Now, who was in charge at the time? Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary in this period, 25th of October 2022 to 13th of November 2023. Suella Braverman, she's in charge. Who's the Immigration Minister? Robert Jenrick, 20th October 2022 to the 6th of 12th 2023. Robert Jenrick in charge of immigration when this happened. Who's other significant person in the Home Office? Chris Philp, now the Shadow Home Secretary, at the time Crime Minister, 26th of October 2022, 5th of July 2024. It's a plague on all our houses. Now, of course, Suella Braverman left government, so did Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick resigned over the Rwanda deal. Suella Braverman had battles of her own with the Home Office. But it just shows, I think, maybe how limited the power is for these three individuals, huge critics now of the government's immigration policy. They were in charge. They were in charge, Martin. when this individual got into the UK and then, he's been arrested for committing this attempted murder.
It's a Brexit conversation. It's a failing to take back control conversation. The notion that we're about to face a prospect of 6 hours to be able to get into Alicante because of Brexit, and yet if you're Sudanese, you can simply fly to Paris, fly to Dublin and swan through into Northern Ireland in a coach. We had a former counter-terror police chief there from Belfast saying there is a non-existent border. So the UK, has a non-existent border with the rest of the world via that soft underbelly through Ireland.
Because of the common travel area, so you can travel between the UK and Ireland without a passport, but you can also travel into Ireland without a passport from the Schengen area. That's mostly all of the European Union, and that's how this individual was able to fly from Paris to Dublin, not being challenged. And then, of course, he gets to the UK, claims asylum for 5 years till 2028, and then this happens.
It's a bigger nightmare for Michelle O'Neill, the First Minister of Northern Ireland, Sinn Féin, today. She looked completely rattled in that press conference. Doogie Beattie spoke to her about her open borders experiment. Yeah. She lost the plot.
Because it challenges everything she believes in. It challenges that liberal view of immigration, which is causing deep upset in communities in Northern Ireland and in the UK more widely. And that was the wake-up call, I think, for her.
And she said, today is not the day to talk about open borders. I have no truck with your fake news. That's what she said to our Northern Ireland reporter. Today is the day to talk about open borders. Today is the day where we should have this conversation as a man lays very, very gravely wounded in Belfast, another victim of open borders nightmares. Up next is Michelle Juby, Jubes & Co. Michelle, what's on your menu?
Hey Martin, great programme as always. I'm getting a little bit fed up actually of politicians trying to dictate what people can think, when they can think it, what they can say and when and how they can say it. There is of course though only one conversation to be had tonight. That is what on earth is happening to our country. I will be taking you live to Belfast as well. So get yourself comfortable, get yourself a cup of tea or something stronger and I will see you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen plenty of heavy showers today and there's more to come tonight and again tomorrow, and staying on the fairly fresh side. Pretty hefty downpours out there for this evening's rush hour. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. The thundery showers focused across eastern parts of England and Scotland. They will tend to fade, generally turning drier in the east. Always further west will keep some showers going, getting blown in on a fairly brisk breeze. That breeze, though, easing a touch through the night, which will allow temperatures to dip down to single figures in some spots. On to Wednesday, another case of sunshine and showers, with eastern areas generally starting off with the sunshine, and further west, that's where most of the showers will be. That's certainly the case first thing in the morning, so generally a fine start on the east coast of Scotland. Further west, some sunshine between the showers, which will be zipping in here and for Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones over Northern England and parts of West Wales. Largely dry to start with over East Anglia and the southeast. Some morning sunshine here. Wales and southwest England seeing the showers again blown in on a fairly brisk wind. Subtle changes as we go through the day. Again, the clouds will build up. We'll see some thundery downpours come the afternoon, mostly focused over the Midlands, northeast England, and then come the afternoon, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast also. Whereas in the west, certainly South Wales, southwest England, likely to see some longer dry spells for the afternoon and a bit more sunshine, which is going to struggle to lift the temperatures much, mostly similar to today on the cool side. Still plenty of those heavy showers over eastern parts during the evening time. And then, although the showers fade, another batch of wet weather comes marching in for Thursday. So